Chapter 38:11. Lu Feibing had arrived. Of course, Lin Ling had also used the all-spirit water to nurture little Kunlun. He realized that little Kunlun seemed to like this kind of spirit water very much. As it continued to absorb it, it actually changed. However, he did not know how little Kunlun would change this time. After all, this fellow could grow into a forest at any time. After cultivating until midnight, Lin Ling decided to rest. All these years, whenever he had free time, he would cultivate. It had become a habit. Tonight, he would have a good sleep. Lying on the bed and looking at the dark sky through the window, Lin Ling also thought of Anuer. That senior sister who had helped him when he was young. Later on, after his hard work, she became his wife in the end. He wondered how she was doing in the Kaiyuan River. With that thought, Lin Ling also quietly fell asleep. However, he also had a dream. In the dream, he seemed to have returned to his youth. In the Guyan sect, he was playing with Yu Yu and Anuer. Under the sunlight, he felt extremely comfortable. At that time, he was clearly a little naive and did not carry any great hatred or mission. After a day of playing, night fell. Just as Lin Ling wanted to take advantage of them, he was chased back to his residence by the two girls. Amidst the laughter, Lin Ling helplessly walked back to his residence. However, just as he was about to enter his room, he realized that there were whispers coming from not far away. This made the young Lin Ling walk towards the voice. In the forest not far from the wooden house, he saw a thin and weak girl about 16 years old. She was squatting on the ground and chatting with a little vine. Moreover, she was chatting happily and would occasionally let out gurgling sounds. As for the little vine, it also seemed to be very happy. It swayed its vine as if it was enjoying itself. Little Kunlun? Lin Ling instinctively shouted. For some reason, he was very familiar with that little vine. Ah! Seeing Lin Ling's arrival, the girl was obviously flustered. Without saying anything, she immediately ran into the depths of the forest. However, the moment she stood up, Lin Ling realized that the girl was very thin. Her body was dirty, and there were many wounds. Some of the wounds were oozing pus, and some were so deep that bones could be seen. Therefore, when the girl was running, she suddenly fell. However, she did not care about the injuries on her body and finally disappeared into the dark forest. Looking at the pitch-black forest, Lin Ling frowned. Although he didn't know who the girl was, it was extremely pitiful for her to hide in the forest all year round. Little Kunlun, who is she? Lin Ling couldn't help but look at the vines beneath his feet. The vine swayed, emitting the sound of Kunlun. Then, it climbed onto Lin Ling's shoulder like a snake. The vine was like a tongue, gently licking Lin Ling's face. You bastard. Lin Ling couldn't help smiling. He didn't reject little Kunlun's intimate action, but he still asked, who is she? However, little Kunlun still didn't answer, it just continued licking Lin Ling's face. As it continued to lick, Lin Ling finally couldn't hold it in any longer, because it was too itchy. When he gently patted off the vine on his face, he finally opened his eyes. A ray of warm sunlight shone down, making Lin Ling somewhat startled. Only then did he realize that last night was a dream. However, his cheeks were still itchy. When he turned his head to look, he realized that it was little Kunlun on his left arm. You bastard, don't tell me you also had a dream last night. Lin Ling suddenly laughed helplessly. He jumped up from the bed and landed on the ground. When he moved his body, the sound of frying beans could be heard. Next, Lin Ling washed up and put on a clean set of clothes. At the same time, he glanced at the platinum evil spirit, who was like a bodyguard the entire night, and then walked out of the room. Outside the house, it was bustling. Early in the morning, people started to get busy. Some were mining, some were planting, and everyone had their own division of labor. Lord Lin Ling. After seeing Lin Ling, many people greeted him. At present, they respected Lin Ling from the bottom of their hearts. Good morning. Lin Ling nodded with a smile. He glanced around and asked, "Where are my big brother and the others?" "Lord Lin Ling, I heard that Lord D is in seclusion. Currently, Yeshua is guarding the mountain fortress. Lord Meng has gone to the mountain fortress on the left. As for Lord Wangu, he has gone to the mountain fortress on the right to guard it." Someone immediately replied with a smile. "My big brother is still in seclusion. It seems that his strength has increased a lot after this breakthrough." Lin Ling couldn't help but feel happy for Sakura. Sakura was currently a 6th grade talent, and he might be able to reach the 7th grade. He might even be able to step into the half-step martial god realm. A 7th grade half-step martial god realm, if it had happened not long ago, Lin Ling would have found it difficult to defeat him. This also meant that his combat strength was not weak. Meng Lu and Wangu Wuji, do they usually guard one mine each? Lin Ling asked casually as he followed an old man up the city wall and looked at the green prairie. Yes, and the mountain fortress in the center is guarded by Lord D. Moreover, the underground caves of the 3 mineral veins are also connected. If anything happens, we can retreat and attack, advance and defend. The old man explained. Lin Ling immediately knew that his big brother had put in a lot of effort in the mountain fortress. Usually, he would have resisted many attacks, but in the end, he was helpless against the Red Alliance. As for the Red Alliance, Lin Ling naturally wanted to eradicate it. After all, he wouldn't be staying in the mountain fortress for long. However, there were too many Red Alliance members. If he really wanted to eradicate them, it would take a lot of time. Therefore, Lin Ling did not take action. He was also waiting for the experts of the Red Alliance to come to him. Of course, during this process, he also asked the Headhunter tribe to help him look for an heir. In fact, before Lu Feibing left yesterday, Lin Ling had secretly asked him for help. This was also the reason why Lin Ling did not touch him. "Senior, I'm coming, I'm coming." At the mention of Lu Feibing, an anxious shout could be heard from afar. Looking over, a large number of people were riding on horses in the prairie. There were about 200 of them. Their mounts were a little strange. They looked like horses, but they were very fat and strong. When they galloped on the prairie, they actually glided on the grass. Of course, they were also very fast. Not long after, the group arrived in front of the mountain fortress. The person leading them was Lu Feibing. When they saw the top power, they were obviously afraid. After all, he was a half-step to martial god. He could kill them at any time. Put down the city gate. However, Lin Ling said with a smile. With Lin Ling's order, the people of the God Slayer Alliance immediately put down the city gate and placed it above the moat. Then, under Lu Feibing's lead, the people entered one after another. Chapter 38:12. En Yuer's whereabouts. Lu Feibing looked up at Lin Ling on the city wall and pretended to wipe the sweat off his forehead. It was as if he had already worked very hard by bringing 200 miners with him. Lin Ling instantly smiled and walked down slowly. "I didn't expect you to keep your promise. If you hadn't come back, I wouldn't have been able to find you in this vast grassland. Moreover, I wouldn't have had the time to look for you. You're too kind. I'll definitely carry out Senior's orders." Lu Feibing patted his chest and said. In reality, the reason he was willing to come back was because Lin Ling had given him the water of all spirits. Otherwise, he would have fled as far as he could in the face of a murderous god like Lin Ling. "You're also a member of the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. Now that you know my whereabouts, don't you plan to tell that leader?" Lin Ling asked again. The leader he was referring to was Wanyan Shijing. If that guy knew that Lin Ling was here, he would probably come all the way here. "Don't worry, Senior. There are many alliances in the final world right now. After all, you also know that in the final world, unless your strength is heaven-defying, your background and connections are the key. That's why so many alliances have been formed. However, among the elites of the 3 divine halls of the final world, unless they're part of an alliance, many of them have joined several alliances. For example, I joined the Heaven-Crushing Alliance for the sake of obtaining the water of all spirits. After all, I'm not a member of the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. Even if there's a big benefit, it won't be mine. I'm only given a small benefit. Lu Feibing continued to explain. Lin Ling nodded. No wonder those people had fled so quickly when Wanyan Bupo was killed. As it turned out, they weren't united. To put it bluntly, it was more like an employment relationship. This also meant that Lu Feibing wouldn't inform Wanyan Shijing unless he and Lin Ling became mortal enemies. Guards, take these miners away and treat them well. Lin Ling immediately waved his hand. Then, he led Lu Feibing forward. Do you know the strength of the Red Alliance? How powerful is their leader? The Red Alliance is a big alliance. However, their leaders aren't weak either. They're all half-step martial gods, and there are 18 of them. Lu Feibing explained. Then, he glanced at Lin Ling. Of course, to senior, those leaders are just so. According to my knowledge, those leaders aren't even ranked on the stairway to the divine rankings. Moreover, some of them aren't from the 3 halls of the Divine Alliance. However, they're not as powerful as you, senior. Hearing this, Lin Ling asked again, is there a way to find them? This is very difficult because the Guyuan mountain range is very big. The Red Alliance is spread all over the place. They have occupied many small mines that the big forces don't want. Therefore, other than their core members, it is very difficult for others to know which mine the leader is in. As if he knew what Lin Ling was thinking, Lu Feibing continued, Senior, don't worry. Since the Red Alliance has failed this time, they might come looking for you personally. In fact, the 18 leaders aren't united. They can't wait to see a good show. If one of them dies, the other leaders will take his resources. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Everything was as he had expected. They just had to wait for the experts of the Red Alliance to come. By the way, how's the matter that I asked you to do? The 2 of them arrived at the meeting hall. Lin Ling sat down and poured a glass of wine for Lu Feibing. Lu Feibing was given a fright when he heard Lin Ling's name. He had asked around yesterday and found out that Lin Ling was a student of the Blizzard Academy. Not only was he the first person to reach the 9th level of the Ethereal Tower, but he had also defeated Duan Wuhan. It was said that his potential was even greater than the number 1 genius of the Duan clan. Moreover, he had even dared to challenge martial god Wentian's disciple. It was earth-shattering. Now, such a domineering person was pouring wine for him? This was too much for him to handle. I have already inquired about that matter. I heard that the immortal temple of the 9 continents Vicious 10 has indeed come to the ancient Yuan mountain range, and their saintess has also come. Once, they clashed with a big power. That big power's backer is one of the 9 continents' 10 great martial gods, Unrestrained Sword Martial God. Unrestrained Sword Martial God? Yes. Yes, in the ancient Yuan mountain range, many large mines have extremely powerful backers. For example, the mines under the name of Martial God Wentian and the mines under the name of Unrestrained Sword Martial God. Because of this, they occupied the large mines. Yes. It seems that the waters of the Guyuan mountain range are really deep, and those martial gods have occupied the mineral veins. Over the years, the mineral veins have been able to provide an endless supply of cultivation resources, which has allowed their disciples' strength to continuously increase. Yes. Yes, Senior. Yes. After drinking a mouthful of wine, Lin Ling asked again, Are you sure that the Holy Maiden of the Immortal Temple went to the ancient dragon wasteland? Yes. Although I'm not too sure, it's not far from the truth. I heard it from a few Headhunter clan members. After all, in the ancient primordial mountain range, no Headhunter clan member can see the Immortal Temple. That's why I guessed it. And after entering the ancient dragon desolate land, many Headhunter clan members can enter that place. Lu Feibing immediately said. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. Fortunately, he had a good relationship with Lu Feibing. This guy was indeed worthy of being called an experienced person. In just one night, he had already inquired about the information he needed. Otherwise, even if he searched the entire prairie, he might not be able to find any news about Anuer. Here is a bottle of 10,000 spirit water. This is your reward. Yes. Following that, Lin Ling placed a bottle of 10,000 spirit water on the table. This, senior, you already gave me my reward yesterday. Yes. Lu Feibing was immediately overwhelmed by the favor. Take it. I, Lin Ling, never mistreat those who work for me. You can go back first. If there's any news, or if there's anything I need, I'll look for you again. Lin Ling said with a faint smile. Lu Feibing hurriedly stood up and bowed deeply to Lin Ling. He took the bottle of 10,000 spirit water and left. He was overjoyed because he had established a relationship with Lin Ling. One had to know that in the final world, although Lin Ling had many enemies, there were also many people who wanted to befriend Lin Ling. This was because many people guessed that Lin Ling's backer was as strong as a walnut. After Lu Feibing left, Lin Ling drank alone with a burning gaze. Currently, he had finally heard news about Anuer. Although she had disappeared into the desolate body, he had at least found a direction. Therefore, he only needed to wait for the matter of the fortress to be resolved before he could set off. After drinking a few more cups of wine, Lin Ling took out a few bottles of 10,000 spirit water and left one bottle for each of Dream Flow and the rest. Following that, he had nothing to do, so he decided to go to the mine to take a look. Chapter 38:13. The Girl in His Dreams. Of course, the more times it was washed, the higher the purity of the imperial crystal would be. Lord Lin Ling. When the miners saw Lin Ling, they immediately smiled and greeted him. Lin Ling also smiled and waved, then entered the mine. The interior of the mine was a little damp, but the surface area was much larger than Lin Ling had imagined. The entire solid mountain had been hollowed out. Everyone was digging into the ground, and the miners were very experienced. They knew which places produced the most ores. This was something that outsiders could not compare with. Even Lin Ling couldn't compare. Even though his soul power was powerful, he could only sense where there were royal crystals. However, if there were royal crystals in the vicinity, it would take him some time to search for them in detail. Moreover, Lin Ling's evil ghost jellyfish could also mine, but it was a little overkill. After all, the cost of hiring these miners was not that high. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Along the way, water began to drip from the mine. The depths of the mine were a little dark. My lord, that's the road to another mine. Very few people take that route. Seeing that Lin Ling was still moving forward, someone couldn't help but remind him with a smile. It's fine, I'm just looking around. Lin Ling nodded and walked along the huge mine. The mine was very big because it led to another fortress. Lin Ling also wanted to see Dream Flow and the others on the way. Little Kunlun. But at this moment, little Kunlun on his shoulder made a sound, and its vines pointed in a direction. It was a small branch of the big mine. There was also a small hole that could allow one person to go in and out, and there was a faint sound of human voices coming from inside. What are you doing? Why are you hiding here? Are you trying to cause trouble? Let me tell you, bastard, if I find out that you want to destroy the mine, we won't let you off. The voice was somewhat fierce, followed by the sound of punches and kicks. It sounded like the strength of the punches was not small. Stop fighting, stop fighting. I just want to mine some ores in exchange for some food. I haven't eaten for 3 days. A girl's pitiful voice sounded. Lin Ling immediately frowned. Could it be that the God Slayer Alliance's mineral veins also allowed them to bully the weak? He immediately strode over and saw that after turning the corner, a mine about 5 to 6 meters wide appeared. This mine was very gloomy and cold, and water dripped from the ceiling from time to time. 3 figures were surrounding a person, punching and kicking. What are you doing? Lin Ling immediately shouted angrily. The voice made the 3 people stop what they were doing. When they turned around and saw that it was Lin Ling, their expressions changed drastically. Among the three, there was a thin and weak girl. Her clothes were tattered, and there were many wounds on her body. Some of them were even oozing pus, and some of them were so deep that bones could be seen. It's like this. She's a wild girl. We met her in the prairie and then she followed us. We pitied her, so we brought her along. However, we later found out that she's a jinx. Wherever she goes, she'll be met with misfortune. Once in the eastern mineral veins, it was because of her that the entire mine exploded and many people died. Yes, and someone pitied her and brought her along. In the end, that group of people were eaten by the demon snake in one night, but she was unharmed. To put it bluntly, she's a jinx. We were afraid that she would cause trouble, so we kept an eye on her. The three of them hurriedly said, looking aggrieved. Lin Ling frowned. Suddenly, he could understand their feelings. This was because the miners were not experts and believed in fate. How could they not be afraid of bringing an otaku with them? You guys can leave now. Lin Ling waved his hand and did not blame the three of them. The three of them hurriedly left, leaving only the girl in the mine. The girl was very afraid of Lin Ling and hid in a corner, trembling all over. I'm not a jinx. I didn't want to kill them. I don't know why it's like this. The girl explained in a trembling voice. Lin Ling did not speak. He glanced at the mine and asked, "Have you been here all this time?" "Sir, I've been here all this time." The girl was afraid that Lin Ling would be angry and hit her again, so she hurriedly said, "It's very cold here. Are you here at night?" Lin Ling asked again, but the girl nodded. This made Lin Ling frown. This was because the other miners did not speak at night and lived in the fortress. However, this girl lived in the mine and wore such thin clothes. She probably had not seen the sun for a few years. Why didn't you leave with the miners? We provided food and accommodation for free. Sir, they don't welcome me and chased me down. I can only exchange for food if I can dig a mine. The girl explained. Hearing this, Lin Ling's face turned cold. He walked forward step by step. Sensing this, the girl trembled even more. She covered her head with both hands, as if she was afraid of being hit by Lin Ling. However, what she was waiting for did not happen. Instead, a warm coat covered her body. This made the girl suddenly open her eyes in disbelief. However, there was a steamed bun and a pot of wine in front of her. This, sir. The girl was shocked. You haven't eaten for 3 days. Eat. Use the wine to warm your body. But don't drink too much. Lin Ling squatted beside the girl and said with a smile. He found that although the girl was dirty, she looked delicate and pretty. However, the girl did not dare to move. She was afraid that Lin Ling was playing with her because she had encountered such things many times. However, in the end, she could not hold back her hunger. She carefully picked up the steamed bun on the ground and ate it. She could be said to be wolfing down the food. After eating, she lowered her head and saw another steamed bun on the ground. This made her delicate body tremble. She suddenly grabbed the steamed bun and could not help but burst into tears. Her cries were very tragic. This was because when she was 1 year old, she caused the death of the entire village. Therefore, the village chased her out. Also, when she was 10 years old, she caused the death of the passerby who brought her along. Therefore, she was chased away. More importantly, until now, people would only beat her. No one had ever given her food. The entire cave was filled with the girl's cries. They drifted further and further away. Lin Ling looked at her quietly. He could understand her feelings. However, his heart suddenly trembled. Then, he turned his head and saw that little Kunlun was also looking at the girl. Its vines were swaying slightly as if it was greeting the girl. This confirmed Lin Ling's suspicions. The girl he met in his dream last night seemed to be the one in front of him. How strange. How did this girl enter his dream? No one is fighting with you. You don't have to eat so quickly. At that moment, Lin Ling smiled and said, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." The girl held the steamed bun in one hand and continued to cry. However, she stood up and bowed to Lin Ling. Chapter 38:14. A cave within a cave. Eat it, don't be reluctant, I have more here. Lin Ling smiled when he saw the girl's reluctant look. Thank you, sir. The girl nodded, but she still did not eat the bun. Instead, she treasured it. Lin Ling saw that she was pitiful, so he casually asked her where her home was. However, the girl did not have any recollection of this because she was chased out when she was 1 year old. If it wasn't for her good luck that someone brought her up, she would have died a long time ago. However, the old granny who brought her up also passed away when she was 10 years old, leaving her all alone. Let's go, I'll take you away. Seeing the girl's pitiful past, Lin Ling also felt compassion. After all, with his strength, it was not difficult to find a safe place for the girl. Hearing this, the girl nodded gratefully, but she seemed to be afraid of something and immediately shook her head. This made Lin Ling ask, but the girl did not say anything and only shook her head vigorously. She has the power of the world will in her body, and it is this power that causes disaster to everyone who gets close to her. At this moment, the giant ghost beside him suddenly said in a low voice, "World will?" Lin Ling's expression changed. Although he was not familiar with this power, he knew that it was a power that even gods were afraid of. He never thought that a girl like her would have this kind of power in her body. And it is not as simple as just the world will, because there is also a mysterious aura in her body. Even I am seeing it for the first time. At this moment, the giant ghost added, "No matter what she's hiding in her body, I will never leave her here alone." Lin Ling shook his head, and did not dwell on this matter. He walked forward, stroked the girl's head, and said with a smile, "Are you afraid that you will bring bad luck to me?" "Don't worry, I, Lin Ling, have never believed in heresy since I was young. When those disasters encounter me, they will definitely be the ones to suffer." As soon as he said this, the girl raised her head, because she did not expect Lin Ling to know her thoughts. "But they all say that I am a jinx," the girl whispered. Although she didn't want to admit it, she knew that strange things always happened around her, causing many people to die. "In my eyes, you are not a jinx." Lin Ling laughed, "Don't worry, if you're a jinx, then I'm a killing god. So, those disasters of yours won't be able to hurt me. From now on, you'll follow me because I'm also a warrior. But my cultivation has been too smooth, so I like to experience some twists and turns and encounter some disasters." Hearing those nonchalant words, how could the girl not know that Lin Ling was comforting her? Her eyes became moist again, and large drops of tears fell from time to time. But this time, she finally nodded and agreed. Lin Ling saw that the cave was gloomy and cold, so he planned to leave with the girl. However, just as he turned around, he noticed a different kind of chilly wind quietly blowing in the depths of the cave. This chilly wind was colder than the one in the cave, and most importantly, there was a hint of demonic aura in the wind. Lin Ling let the wind pass, and when the tail of the wind blew past him, he waved his right hand and caught the tail of the wind, then gently sniffed it. Then, he realized that the demonic aura in the wind in his hand was thicker. "Is it a demon snake?" Lin Ling frowned. "Sir, this wind is blowing from that cave." However, the girl seemed to be familiar with that cave, and suddenly said with some fear, "You've been there before?" After a series of questions, Lin Ling's heart trembled. This girl was indeed pitiful, and humans could not tolerate her. She could only wander around by herself, and had been to so many dangerous places. Then, Lin Ling took out some natural treasures to treat the girl's injuries, washed her face, and let her change into clean clothes alone. After a while, Lin Ling walked back into the cave again, and his eyes lit up. After changing into clean clothes, although the girl was still thin and slender, she gave off a much better feeling. Especially after her injuries were healed, her entire body was extremely fair, and this kind of fair had a sickly paleness. This was also the effect of not being exposed to sunlight for many years. Of course, if it came from a man, it would be a little effeminate, but when it came from a girl, it gave off a lovely and moving feeling. "What's your name?" Lin Ling could not help but ask. "I don't have a name." The girl lowered her head, as if she was still in awe of Lin Ling. "You don't have a name." Lin Ling muttered to himself, then turned to look at little Kunlun and smiled. "It was the one who brought me to you, and it's called Little Kunlun. How about I call you Little Kunlun?" "Okay." The girl nodded lightly, but her thin and weak body was quietly trembling. Because she actually had a name. She had lived for 16 years, but it was only now that she felt like a human. In the past, there was no lack of people who were so good to her, but used and deceived her. Although those people were all dead, they also let her know that no human liked her. But now, even if Lin Ling was using her and deceiving her, she was willing to die for Lin Ling. Because to be cared for and trusted by others, she cherished this feeling very much. "Sir, do you want to go into the cave? I know the way." Suddenly, little Kunlun looked up at Lin Ling. Lin Ling wanted to bring little Kunlun out of the cave first, but seeing that little Kunlun was fine, he immediately nodded. "If you know the way, then let's go in and explore." "Okay." The two of them immediately went into the cave. The cave entrance was not big, and Lin Ling had to bend down to crawl in. But after entering, the space inside was not small, and there were more than 10 caves. Lin Ling was a little confused. "Big brother, come this way, there are many dead caves over there, and although the cave on the left is not, there are many bats, and those bats are very powerful. As for the one over there are many emperor crystals, but there are many demon snakes, so the emperor crystals are not easy to mine." Little Kunlun was very familiar with the caves. It seemed that she had searched all these caves over the years. Lin Ling could not help but be shocked. After all, with little Kunlun's strength, if she encountered the demon snakes, she would not be able to avoid being swallowed, but she was safe and sound. Could it be that the demon snakes sensed the will of the world in her body, so they did not dare to approach her? And the truth was indeed so. When they passed by a cave, Lin Ling's soul force sensed that there was a demon snake lying in the corner of the cave. However, the demon snake only flicked its tongue at Lin Ling, as if it did not see little Kunlun. Of course, Lin Ling released a little bit of his aura, and the demon snake was scared into running away. And as they continued forward, a cave entrance appeared in front of them, two people side by side. A large amount of water flowed down from the top of the cave, forming a scene like a water curtain cave. Lin Ling immediately urged his realm essence to form a light shield, and brought little Kunlun into the cave. Chapter 38:15. Realm Scorpion. Xiaoluan stayed in the cave for many years and had long adapted to the darkness. Her eyes could see very far. Lin Ling was so powerful that this little bit of darkness naturally couldn't stop him. What surprised him was that there was actually a huge ancient lake in front of him. This lake stretched for thousands of miles and the lake water was silent, giving people a strange feeling. Moreover, a strange wind was blowing in the surroundings, as if someone was whispering in his ear. "We're here. This is the largest cave under the 3 mines." Xiaoluan raised her head and looked at Lin Ling. "Thank you, Xiaoluan." Lin Ling replied. If it was not for Xiaoluan, he would have to go through a lot of trouble to find this cave. In the ancient lake, there is a huge scorpion with 6 tails. It is very powerful. However, there is also a strange tree. That tree has no leaves or flowers, only a fruit. Xiaoluan said as if she had been there before. In fact, she had indeed been there before. Fruit? Lin Ling frowned and quickly took out the box containing the fruit of good. However, he hesitated whether to open it or not. After all, Xiaoluan had the will of the world. The fruit of good might hurt her. However, Lin Ling was overthinking. When he gently opened the wooden box, Xiaoluan was not affected at all. Instead, she said with surprise, "This fruit is very similar to the one in the ancient lake. However, it is a little different." When she said this, Lin Ling was somewhat expectant. Because if he wanted to refine the flame of the human king, he needed the blessings of the gods. Among them, he needed the fruit of good, fruit of fortune and fruit of fate. These heavenly treasures were extremely rare and only appeared in the era of the gods. It was impossible to find them in the 9 states. Furthermore, the Kaiyuan River was a secret realm that coexisted with the universe. It was not impossible for such fruits to appear. Therefore, regardless of whether the fruit in front of him was what he needed, he decided to give it a try. "Xiaoluan, you stay here. I will go and take a look," Lin Ling said. However, Xiaoluan shook her head and insisted on following Lin Ling. She seemed to be afraid that something would happen to Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling shake his head helplessly. With his strength, if something really happened, then Xiaoluan wouldn't be able to help him. However, Lin Ling did not want to waste time. He was confident that he was not weak. Therefore, he got little Kunlun to protect little Luan while Lin Ling carried little Luan and floated into the distance. After flying through the air, Lin Ling realized that this underground lake was not small at all. It could even be called a small ocean. And in the lake, there seemed to be no life. However, right at this moment, a fatal attack suddenly emerged from the bottom of the lake. It was like a lightning dragon emerging from the sea, and its speed had reached 1,800 world speed. Lin Ling's expression instantly changed. His fusion talent was only 1,500 sector speed. However, at the critical moment, little Kunlun immediately made a move. It turned into a huge ancient forest in midair. Countless vines poured out and bought some time for Lin Ling. Lin Ling immediately fused his talent and the tyrannical song sword appeared. He controlled the true inheritance dark sword and shot it out. Ding ding dang dang. In the darkness, the countless vines wrapped around the object and immediately released countless sparks. However, the object was unscathed after being attacked by the true inheritance dark sword. So hard? Lin Ling's pupils shrank. Then, he did not believe in heresy and activated the true inheritance dark sword again. This time, it turned into more than 6,000 swords. Moreover, under the constant attack, the ancestral power reached 70%. Each sword had 70% ancestral power. It was not weak at all. Of course, the ancestral power of the true inheritance dark sword was still weaker than the tyrannical song sword. Ding ding dang dang. However, it still did not have much effect. Seeing this, Lin Ling took a deep breath. The power of his 6 stanchions surged out continuously and appeared on the tyrannical song sword. He immediately turned into a shooting star and shot forward. The most overbearing sword appeared among the countless flying swords and slashed toward the darkness. However, in the darkness, the deadly object sensed that Lin Ling's attack was extraordinary. It immediately wanted to avoid it. However, countless vines wrapped around it. Lin Ling naturally would not miss such a good opportunity. His sword finally arrived. Clang! A deafening sound was heard. The lake water exploded and poured down like a storm. A sword mark finally appeared on the pitch-black object that was struck by Lin Ling's sword, and it was slowly splitting open. However, it only cracked open. That's too powerful. I'm afraid that not many half-step to martial gods can withstand my full-strength attack. Lin Ling was shocked. Big brother, let's go quickly. That thing has woken up. At this moment, Xiaoluan anxiously reminded him. Hearing this, Lin Ling was shocked again because he had seen that the black and hard object was only a tail. A tail was already so terrifying. What if the main body came out? It seemed that he had to bring the platinum evil spirit here. Lin Ling had already decided to retreat. He shouted angrily, "Little Kunlun, let's go. Go." After saying this, he immediately rushed back the way he had come. Behind him, the tail that had been slashed with a sword mark swept up crazily and finally crushed all the vines. However, little Kunlun had already wrapped around Lin Ling's shoulder and quickly left with Lin Ling rumble. In the ancient lake, a huge whirlpool appeared and the lake water flowed backward. Then, a pair of stone mill-like eyes slowly rose from the surface of the water. That's the realm scorpion. After the giant ghost saw it clearly, it immediately said solemnly. Very powerful. Where did this realm scorpion come from? Lin Ling asked as he rushed back the way he had come. The giant ghost looked back and immediately said indifferently, this is the divine embryo that follows the Buddha god. Once, the Buddha god preached and a scorpion heard the Tao and became a god. Later, because it was hiding under the Buddha god's praying mat, it accidentally pinned the Buddha god and was finally punished to the god realm. Of course, these are all legends. In fact, no one knows where the realm scorpion came from. However, its strength is not weak. Its every move carries the power of universal Tao. Lin Ling, let's leave quickly. This realm scorpion has been sleeping for a long time and has just woken up, so its reaction is a little slow. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave. Hearing the giant ghost's words, Lin Ling pushed his speed to the limit and finally rushed into the cave. After entering the cave, Lin Ling did not stop and madly rushed back the way he had come. After a long time, when he heard someone's voice in front of him, Lin Ling returned to his original form and slowly moved forward with little Luan. However, Lin Ling was still in shock about what had just happened. His current strength had greatly increased, but he was still helpless against a demonic beast. It made him feel extremely insignificant. Of course, Lin Ling really did not want to miss the fruit in the ancient lake, so he asked, Giant Ghost, what do you think is the strength of that thing? Yes. It should be in the martial god realm, and its strength is probably comparable to the 9 states martial gods. Yes. Chapter 38:16. Exploring the ancient lake again. Lin Ling, this is still considered weak. A true 9-tailed world scorpion's strength is comparable to a god. As for that world scorpion, according to Shaoluan, it's only 6-tailed. What makes me really curious is that there's something wrong with that world scorpion. According to the characteristics of scorpions, they usually don't take the initiative to provoke people, but if someone dares to offend them, they won't easily let the intruder go. Even if they have to chase the intruder out of the Kaiyuan River, they will kill the intruder. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes lit up, unless it's injured? Possible. Of course, there's another possibility, which is that when it evolves into 7-tailed, it needs to shed its skin and metamorphose, so it doesn't have time to pay attention to you. Other than that, there's only one last possibility, which is that it's about to give birth. Injury, metamorphosis, and giving birth. If it's giving birth, that's the best, because at this time, the world scorpion is the most timid, and only wants to protect its young and leave. This also means that you can get close to the center of the ancient lake. Giant Ghost guessed. And if none of the 3 situations is true, then if I provoke it again, won't I be dead for sure? Moreover, even if it's giving birth, it's impossible to scare it away with my strength. Possible. Lin Ling said with a frown. How could the current him fight against the top 10 martial gods of the 9 regions? That won't happen. If you attack with all your strength, with that crazy aura of yours, you can scare it away. After all, if it just gave birth to a young, it's afraid that the young will be injured, so it won't fight with all its strength and will choose to leave. Possible. After a good rest, bring Giant Ghost and the others to try your luck. Possible. Lin Ling immediately nodded. As they moved forward, many miners appeared in front of them. Lord. Possible. Those miners saluted, but when they saw Shaoluan beside Lin Ling, their expressions changed greatly. Bane, Lord, that's the Bane. Possible. Bastard, who told you to come up, get lost. These miners were not strong, and they mined all year round, so they naturally believed in some things about fate, so they were extremely afraid and angry at the Bane. "Shut up." Lin Ling frowned and immediately said in a dignified manner, "From now on, she is my little handmaiden. Whoever speaks ill of her is the same as speaking ill of me." Ah! Everyone opened their mouths wide in disbelief. However, they obviously did not dare to disobey Lin Ling's order. They could only continue working in silence. Of course, they didn't dare to say anything on the surface, but they still looked at Xiaoluan with vigilance and disgust. In this regard, Lin Ling could also understand their feelings, but he could not change their minds, so he was too lazy to bother with them. After leaving the mine, the sun shone brightly outside. When the members of the God Slayer Alliance saw Lin Ling, they were shocked by Lin Ling's decision. This was because they had also heard of the matter of the daughter of the Star of Calamity. Regarding this matter, as martial artists, although they didn't believe in fate, they wouldn't be so bored as to touch upon such taboos. However, Lin Ling was worthy of being the leader. He didn't believe in this evil. Of course, compared to the miners' disgust for Xiaoluan, their attitude was obviously much better. Prepare a clean room for her to live in. Also, her name is Xiaoluan, and from now on, she is my little handmaiden. Lin Ling looked at the members of the God Slayer Alliance and smiled. Then, he asked, "Where's my big brother? Has he come out of seclusion?" "Yes. The Arch hasn't succeeded in her breakthrough. However, Lord Dream and Lord Wangu have been here before, but when they saw that you weren't around, they immediately returned to their respective strongholds. They heard that Lord Lin Ling was going to pass through the mine to reach them, so they wanted to give you a surprise. They are already waiting for you at another stronghold." An old man said with a smile. Lin Ling was speechless. Those guys had probably waited in vain. Lin Ling didn't pay much attention to him and immediately went into his room. In fact, this was indeed the case. In the other two strongholds, Dreamflow and Sakura thought that Lin Ling would arrive at their strongholds from the mine. In the end, they waited until their beards turned white, but Lin Ling was still nowhere to be seen. This made them curse loudly. This stinking brat Lin Ling actually dared to stand them up. After Lin Ling entered his room, Xiaoluan followed him in. She seemed to have an extremely good relationship with little Kunlun, as they were constantly whispering to each other. However, after entering the room, she didn't dare to speak carelessly. Without waiting for Lin Ling to speak, she immediately began to tidy up the room. "This, Xiaoluan, I'll do it myself." "All right." Lin Ling had been training outside all year round, so he didn't care about these things at all. Moreover, he wasn't used to having a handmaiden serving him. "Lord, I'm a handmaiden. This is what I should do." "All right." However, Xiaoluan was extremely stubborn. It could be seen that she cherished everything she had, and was even very satisfied with her current life. Lin Ling couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. However, he let Xiaoluan be. Then, he began to ponder about the battle tomorrow. There was no doubt that in that battle, he would have to go all out. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to scare the Realm Scorpion away. As for Dreamflow and the others, Lin Ling didn't intend to inform them. Firstly, their strength wouldn't be of much help. Secondly, they had to guard the stronghold and didn't have the time. The premise of all this was that, the night passed quietly. Early the next morning, Lin Ling heard a rustling sound. When he opened his eyes, he immediately found a figure already busy with work. She was holding a rag, wiping this and that, and occasionally chatting with the vines beside her. It had to be said that with this figure, the room was much cleaner than usual. And this thin and weak figure was naturally Xiaoluan. Even Lin Ling didn't expect that she would wake up so early and had already started working. "Sir, you're awake." Noticing the voice behind her, Xiaoluan suddenly turned her head and said. However, when she saw Lin Ling, she was first stunned, then blushed and ran out while holding her small face. This made Lin Ling stunned. He didn't seem to have done anything. He couldn't help but look down, and his face suddenly turned red. This was because unknowingly, his pants had already propped up a tent. This was also a phenomenon that men would occasionally have in the morning. No wonder Xiaoluan ran so quickly. So that's why. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile bitterly. After changing into clean clothes, he walked out of the room. Behind him, the platinum evil spirit wearing a large cloak followed him. Outside the room, Xiaoluan stood there with her head lowered. Her pale face revealed a rare blush, which made her look extremely cute. Lin Ling's bitter smile deepened. He didn't expect that his reputation would fail so miserably. However, he had seen many storms, so he changed the subject and said, "Xiaoluan, you stay here. I'll go to the mine alone." "Sir, don't leave me behind." Xiaoluan immediately raised her head, her eyes filled with stubbornness. Chapter 38:17. Go all out. Hearing that, Xiaoluan shook her head and said, "Sir, I don't need your protection. I've been to that ancient lake several times, but I've always come out alive. Also, that fruit is very well hidden. Sir, you may not be able to find it." At the end, she was clearly anxious. At this time, the giant ghost also secretly transmitted its voice to Lin Ling. After hearing that, Lin Ling finally nodded. Indeed, Lin Ling was not familiar with the ancient lake, and Xiaoluan had been there many times. She might be able to help him at a critical moment. Immediately, Lin Ling led Xiaoluan into the mine. They walked along the path they came from, but when they reached the cave where they first met Xiaoluan yesterday, Lin Ling immediately realized that there was something strange about this place. It seemed to be different from yesterday. It's the effect of the aura. Beside him, the giant ghost also looked ahead and said, "Sir, let's go this way." However, Xiaoluan was familiar with the path and went into one of the caves. Lin Ling clearly remembered that yesterday, he and Xiaoluan did not enter this cave. It seemed that Xiaoluan was indeed capable. Following Xiaoluan, they turned left and right. Not long after, the water curtain cave appeared again. Lin Ling stopped in his tracks, his expression solemn. Right now, he was not sure if the world scorpion was giving birth. If it was not, with his sticky entanglement, the world scorpion would definitely kill him. Involuntarily, Lin Ling looked at the fist-sized evil spirit beside him. The giant ghost shook its head. Obviously, it was not too sure either. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Yes. Lin Ling took a deep breath and finally stepped in. He was not a wishy-washy person. Since he had chosen to come, then he would fight with all his might. Rushing through the water curtain cave, outside was the pitch-black ancient lake. Just like yesterday, the ancient lake was silent. Lin Ling did not hesitate. He let little Kunlun protect Xiaoluan, and then he led the platinum evil spirit forward. Of course, Lin Ling didn't forget to look at the giant ghost and ask, "If I'm in danger, will you help me?" Although the path of martial arts ultimately depended on the individual, he was currently facing Realm Scorpion, so it was normal for him to find more helpers. "I actually don't have the strength," the giant ghost said fiercely. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. He didn't know if the giant ghost was telling the truth or not, but from the looks of it, he could only rely on himself. "Goyalu." And as he spoke, bubbles appeared on the calm water surface. Then, a fatal killing intent arrived. It was a very fast speed, once again exceeding 1500 world speed. Seeing this, Lin Ling didn't dare to be negligent. He went all out and fused his talents. Clang! The energy from his 6 stanchions surged into the Tyrant Song sword. Lin Ling did not even look in front of him as he viciously slashed down with his sword. What was shocking was that as soon as the sword slashed down, a huge scorpion tail arrived in front of him. Rather than a scorpion tail, it was more like a nimble ancient snake. Fortunately, although Lin Ling's speed was not as fast as the scorpion tail, he predicted the opponent's attack and slashed out in advance. However, the scorpion tail was extremely strong. After being slashed by Lin Ling's sword, it immediately knew that Lin Ling was the person from yesterday, so the tail retreated and swept over with a terrifying stench. If this sweep hit, no matter how strong Lin Ling's body was, he would definitely die on the spot. True inheritance. Lin Ling's pupils constricted. With a low roar, countless swords rushed out from behind him like a swarm of locusts. Clang! Clang! However, the tail was so terrifying that it actually swept away all the true inheritance dark swords. However, the true inheritance dark swords were also like hyenas, madly rushing forward again. Using the true inheritance dark swords to delay, Lin Ling's Tyrant Song sword was also adjusted. He drew a semicircle with both hands and then raised it high. Then, without hesitation, he slashed down fiercely. This slash was obviously more powerful than before. It actually slashed the tail that had just rushed over into the ancient lake again. Even the hard black armor showed cracks. However, Lin Ling was not in a good condition. He was breathing heavily. Of course, during this time, he also activated the true inheritance dark swords. They turned into a river of swords and swept across the ancient lake. Moreover, he also activated the spacetime divine steel and other methods. Rumble. The tranquil ancient lake exploded and waves soared into the skies. This vast and mighty momentum finally awakened the taboo monster beneath the ancient lake. Whoosh! The ferocious whirlpool seemed to have sucked up all the water in the ancient lake, and its momentum was vast and mighty. Then, a pair of purple eyes quietly appeared under the lake water. The eyes coldly looked at Lin Ling, and there was a hint of human-like insidiousness in them. Obviously, it recognized Lin Ling. Behind the churning whirlpool, a couple of ancient snake-like figures finally charged out of the water. Those ancient snakes had their heads facing the sky and were slowly swaying. However, if one were to take a closer look, they were not ancient snakes. Instead, they were frightening tails. There were a total of 6 tails, and at the end of the tails, the most poisonous needles, were emitting different colors. Obviously, the scorpion tails were poisonous. Moreover, previously, one tail had forced Lin Ling to go all out. Now that there were 6 tails, one could imagine how powerful it was. At this moment, even if a martial god realm expert was here, he would probably run away without hesitation. As the ancient lake continued to roll, the huge scorpion finally floated to the surface. The world scorpion was completely black, except for a pair of purple eyes. Its body was also extremely huge, like a small mountain. The most terrifying thing was that after it appeared, the surrounding cave began to melt. However, Lin Ling was not an ordinary person. He came here with a goal in mind. Whether the world scorpion was giving birth or transforming, Lin Ling would not give up until he saw the end of the world. He floated in the air, and a huge dragon bone bow appeared in his hand. The bow was golden and dazzling, and there were many exquisite patterns engraved on its surface. Countless Buddha light appeared, and the sound of Sanskrit was like a song. Calamity-destroying sun bow. This bow could threaten a martial god realm expert. Although it could not cause fatal damage to the world scorpion, it greatly shocked the world scorpion. It obviously did not expect that a mere weak human would have such power. However, it was not over yet. Lin Ling wanted to intimidate the world scorpion, so he would definitely have to go all out. Therefore, the god's steps were also activated by him, enveloping the world scorpion. The mysterious world instantly enveloped the world scorpion. However, it was obvious that the god's steps had a much smaller impact on a behemoth like the world scorpion. However, it still shocked the world scorpion. That was because it also noticed the mystery of this power. It should not exist in this world. Buzz. At this moment, its purple eyes changed, and it stared at Lin Ling in the air. However, Lin Ling did not wait for it to make the first move, and had already attacked. What were 5? 1. Suffering day and night, to the point of calamity. 2. One is full, and many are full. 3. The sin weapon, trident, eagle, snake, wolf, and dog. 4. Dragon, god, sky, or ghost. 5. If one falls into this prison, 10,000 deaths and 10,000 lives. 6. Connected together, so it was called seamless. Chapter 38:18. The realm scorpion retreated. Sanskrit suddenly descended, spreading throughout the world. An arrow was shot. The dark cave suddenly lit up, countless fragments of light appeared, as if the Buddha had descended upon the world. The dual black and white arrows scattered endless light, intertwining with each other, turning into a huge calamity-ending arrow, charging towards the realm scorpion in the ancient lake. At this moment, the realm scorpion's eyes changed, its 6 tails also began to shake with a rhythm. However, the god's stares had sealed away a lot of its powerful strength. This caused a trace of panic to appear in its sinister eyes. By the time it reacted, the huge arrow had already landed on its back, stabbing into its shell like an awl, as if it wanted to purify everything. And when this terrifying arrow was shot, the entire cave seemed to have collapsed. Countless emperor crystals were also swept away by the terrifying power, gradually turning into nothingness. As for the ground, the 3 strongholds also shook violently. Those miners were all shaken to the ground, even rows of houses were collapsing. This also caused everyone to panic, thinking that some great calamity had happened. Fortunately, although the ancient lake was entered from the mine, it was not actually under the 3 strongholds, otherwise, the 3 strongholds would not exist. Moreover, the ancient lake was also in an extremely deep place underground. Therefore, the grassland was shaking, as if some great demon was about to rush out of the ground. And far away from the strongholds, a large grassland was also sinking. It was extremely terrifying. Looking at the ancient lake again, the lake water seemed to be about to overturn the bottom of the cave, shooting in all directions. After an unknown amount of time, it finally gradually calmed down. Whoosh! Lin Ling floated in the air, returning to his original form. He was breathing heavily as he looked down. This arrow had clearly consumed all of his power. Moreover, the steps of wisdom had also consumed all of his soul power. All that was left now was Jia Yuan. That bastard, don't tell me it's dead. Lin Ling muttered to himself, his heart was extremely nervous. Gurgle. However, he had clearly underestimated the realm scorpion, the ancient lake below. Waves were unceasing, a pair of cold purple eyes slowly floated up. It was the realm scorpion. This also caused Lin Ling's pupils to fiercely tremble. This was truly terrifying. He had been shot directly by him, yet he was still alive. Moreover, Lin Ling was also familiar with the temperament of scorpions. Under normal circumstances, they would not take the initiative to provoke others, but when others entered their territory, they would raise their tails and deal a fatal blow. Therefore, this meant that Lin Ling would have to face the frenzied attacks of the realm scorpions. Crash. As time passed, the enormous figure finally revealed itself completely. Upon closer inspection, the world scorpion was not completely unscathed after being shot by Lin Ling's arrow. On its hard shell, a huge swastika scar appeared. It was about a dozen meters wide and was a ghastly sight. However, it was still unable to pierce through the shell. If this beast was placed in the myriad worlds, it would definitely be a disaster. Lin Ling couldn't help but gasp, but he knew that there was no time to lose. So, he waved his right hand, and the platinum spirit appeared. After that, 2 black gold spirits appeared as well, and then an endless amount of dragon demons appeared. Kill! Then, Lin Ling roared. Deep in his eyes, his fighting spirit was boiling. Kill! The entire cave was vast and mighty, as if it was about to be overturned. Lin Ling seemed to be overbearing, but in fact, his heart was beating like a drum. Because if it was a life and death battle, then they would only end up with a complete annihilation. However, in the current situation, Lin Ling knew that he absolutely couldn't show weakness. Time froze at this moment. Gurgle. Finally, the realm scorpions moved, forming a wave that soared into the sky. Oh no. Shit. Lin Ling's eyes instantly became bloodshot. He knew that there was no way he could escape this calamity. Beside him, the giant spirit also bared its fangs. However, just as they thought that a life and death battle was about to arrive, the realm scorpions took a deep look at Lin Ling and finally dived into the bottom of the ancient lake. Gurgle. A large number of bubbles floated out and lasted for a long time. Finally, the entire ancient lake fell silent. Everyone floated in the air, silent and motionless. It was as if time had frozen. The only sound was the sound of water dripping onto the surface of the lake. However, there were water droplets dripping from the top of the cave, as well as Lin Ling's cold sweat. Clearly, Lin Ling was also scared out of his wits. It's gone. Yes. Yes, you won the bet. Yes. A moment later, two voices that sounded as if they had just survived a disaster finally floated out. Next, Lin Ling and the giant spirit, who were in the air, looked at each other, their eyes filled with excitement. The previous scene seemed simple, but in fact, Lin Ling had already walked on the edge of a knife several times. I can't help but admire you. At such a critical moment, you can still maintain your domineering demeanor. The giant spirit said again. Hearing that, Lin Ling's smile turned into a bitter smile. Say no more. I admire myself. Next, he roared at the sky. Because there were only two outcomes for provoking the realm scorpion. 1. Complete annihilation. 2. The realm scorpion left. The realm scorpion from before was obviously intimidated by Lin Ling's crazy attacks. Coupled with Lin Ling's final frenzy, it finally chose to leave this madman. Because it was indeed giving birth. For the safety of its cubs, it left. Motherhood was also the greatest kind of love. Even the realm scorpion was no exception. Therefore, as long as there was the slightest possibility of harming its cubs, it would choose to avoid it. Sir, the scorpion left. Behind, Shaoluan carried little Kunlun and flew over. Hee, it left. Lin Ling suddenly smiled and looked at Shaoluan. Because the ancient lake was very big, it would take him a lot of time to find the fruit. If Shaoluan knew the whereabouts of the fruit, it would naturally save a lot of time. Moreover, Lin Ling was not sure if the fruit was what he needed. However, for the fruit to be valued by the realm scorpion, even if it was not what Lin Ling needed, it was definitely valuable. Follow me. Shaoluan also knew that there was no time to lose and immediately started searching. After a long time, on the other side of the ancient lake, a mysterious bubble appeared. It was about 5 meters wide and was hidden at the bottom of the lake. In the huge bubble, there was a strange tree. It had no leaves, no flowers, only a fruit. Moreover, the fruit looked very ordinary, just like a pear. Lin Ling had never seen the fruit of fortune or the fruit of fate. Therefore, just as he was about to ask the giant ghost, he immediately realized that the giant ghost had quietly retreated. Looking at the platinum evil spirit and the others, they were also hiding far away. Lin Ling was stunned for a moment before he burst out laughing. Because the fruits he needed were all things blessed by the gods. Now, even the giant ghost was afraid of those fruits. This meant that Lin Ling had found the real fruit. My luck has always been bad. Now it's finally good. Chapter 38:19. Someone. Use the wooden box that holds the fruit of goodness to store it and use jade to pick it. Don't touch it or it will turn into nothingness. At this moment, the giant ghost's voice floated over from afar. Lin Ling immediately nodded and shot into the ancient lake. He also successfully entered the vacuum zone and stood in front of the strange little tree. Upon closer inspection, apart from the lack of leaves and flowers, the little tree was very ordinary. If not for someone's reminder, Lin Ling would have definitely thought it was a pear. When the fruit was just picked, it must not be touched by anything. It must be stored in a wooden box and could only be touched after 3 days. Therefore, Lin Ling also carefully picked it. When he was picking, the giant ghost and the others hid far away. In the end, they even left the ancient lake and came to the cave outside. On the ancient lake, only little Kunlun was waiting for Lin Ling with Xiaoluan. It's here. There was a huge fluctuation earlier. I hope it's not the realm scorpion. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the other side of the ancient lake. This caused Xiaoluan's expression to change instantly. The realm scorpion is not to be trifled with. Let's make it clear first. We'll help you this time. If you get any treasure here, we want to share. If there's only one treasure, then you must compensate with other treasures. Of course. The realm scorpion is stronger than an ordinary martial god. And this is just a six-tailed one. If it's a nine-tailed one, I'm afraid even our Lord Carefree Sword wouldn't dare to provoke it. Six-tailed, hee. With us working together, it shouldn't be difficult. If it were any other time, it would be impossible. However, I asked the Fate Elder for help and found that something happened to the realm scorpion. Later, the Fate Elder told me that there are only 3 kinds of things happening to the realm scorpion. 1. It's injured. 2. It's molting. 3. It's giving birth. If it's the third, then the treasures here will belong to us. You're really well prepared. The voices chatted as they walked and gradually appeared by the ancient lake. There were about a dozen of them, and judging from their attire, they were divided into 3 camps. One camp had blonde hair, golden robes, and even their pupils were golden. Moreover, they looked somewhat different from humans. As for the other camp, they had blue hair. The men were handsome, and the women were otherworldly. It was as if they were born out of the mud without being stained. Moreover, they were also somewhat different from humans. On the other hand, there were 4 people in the other camp. They were all wearing the academy's robes. And it could be seen that they were not from the same academy. Their expressions, they were arrogant. There was powerful confidence. Their goal was the realm scorpion's treasure. However, when they saw the scene in front of them clearly, the confidence and calmness from before disappeared in an instant. Because the ancient lake was the ancient lake. Not only did he not sense the aura of the realm scorpion, he instead saw a little girl floating in the air on a vine. This scene undoubtedly caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Scorpion, Yuquan Yufeng, asked. Who are you? Someone from the blonde youth's side spoke. His name was Jin Yi. He was one of the priests of the Golden God clan. He was also extremely powerful. Me. Being stared at by this group of experts, Xiaoluan immediately panicked. It seems that the realm scorpion has left. Seeing Xiaoluan's appearance, a beautiful woman in the group with long blue hair said faintly. She also looked at Xiaoluan. Tell me, how did the realm scorpion leave? Also, when did you enter here? Did you see anything? She was also a woman, but her voice was cold and even dignified. Xiaoluan's eyes were wet. He wanted to leave, but he did not dare to leave Lin Ling behind. For a moment, he did not know what to say. You lowly bitch, speak. Seeing that Xiaoluan was about to cry, a look of disgust appeared in the woman's eyes and she shouted. I don't know. Xiaoluan was frightened by the voice and could only reply timidly. It's really strange. The realm scorpion has indeed disappeared. Could it be that it knew we were coming, so it ran away in advance? The others looked around, but their expressions became more and more unsightly. It's fine if it ran away, but I'm afraid that it took away the treasures here. If that's the case, we've come here for nothing. The golden-haired young man said coldly. Suddenly, his gaze landed on the vine that Xiaoluan was riding. This lowly servant, he doesn't have any strength, but he can fly above the ancient lake. It seems like that vine is not simple. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at Lil Kunlun. Zuoquan from the human race also nodded. Moreover, if the realm scorpion did not take away the treasures here, it might have been stolen by this cockroach. Search her body. Hearing this, the beautiful woman immediately spoke. She was Princess Shui Wan, the eldest princess of the Water God clan. She's a woman after all. You go. However, Zhuo Quan shook his head. No, she's too dirty. I'm afraid of dirtying my hands. Hearing this, Princess Shui Wan directly refused. Looking at Xiaoluan, there was only contempt in her beautiful eyes. Dirty slave, take off your clothes. The others also did not want to dirty their hands, so Jin Yi also spoke coldly. They were like the children of God. At this moment, they were surrounding a beggar, wanting to see if there were any treasures on the beggar's body. And all of this seemed to be a matter of course to them. I don't have anything. Tears finally fell from Xiaoluan's eyes. It was as if she had returned to the time when she was despised by others. You're courting death. Seeing that Xiaoluan did not do as he said, a youth suddenly snorted. A sword appeared in his hand. Holding the long sword, he stabbed at Xiaoluan. This person was obviously impatient. Since the dirty girl did not take off her clothes, he would kill her. Of course, he also had his eyes on Lil Kunlun. He felt that it was extraordinary. If he could not obtain the treasures left behind by the realm scorpion and a mysterious plant, then this trip would not be in vain. Kunlun. Little Kunlun began to sway when it saw the sword flying towards it. It seemed to be a little angry. However, just as it was about to attack, a figure suddenly appeared in front of little Kunlun. He was dressed in blue robes and held a wooden box in one hand. His other hand gently reached out with 2 fingers at the same time. This action seemed slow, but when the sword was about to attack, it instantly caught the sword. Moreover, the sword did not move at all. What? The expression of the youth who had attacked changed instantly. Scram! The newcomer let out a low shout and twisted 2 fingers. Clang! The sword was twisted, and even the youth's arm was twisted. Then, with a crack, his right arm was completely dislocated. However, this was not the end. The mysterious person took a step forward and struck with his shoulder. Bang! Chapter 38:20. Reprimand. When he landed in the middle of the group of people, he continued to spit out mouthfuls of blood, and his face became extremely pale. As for the group of arrogant people, they all narrowed their eyes because the young man who had attacked before was from the E Garden. He was an expert of the E generation and was ranked 402nd on the heavenly stairway of the gods. He was extremely powerful. However, he'd been defeated by the blue-robed young man in 2 moves. This meant that the person's strength was not simple. Sir, we are from the Unrestrained Sword Alliance. May I know who you are? Yu Quan said indifferently. The injured young man was from the same alliance as him. Now that he was injured, how could he not ask anything? However, he saw that the other party's strength was extraordinary, so he did not act rashly. This was not because he was afraid of the other party, but because he wanted to know the other party's background. Because with such extraordinary strength, he should be someone from a powerful alliance. You don't have the right to know. The person who came was Lin Ling, and he replied coldly. He had never seen the group of people in front of him, but he could guess that they had come for the world scorpion. Moreover, Lin Ling could also sense that they were not weak. They were all at the half-step to martial god realm. Even the weakest talent was grade 7, and some were even grade 8. As for the golden-robed and blue-haired people, Lin Ling sensed that they were not humans. Therefore, he guessed that they were from the gold god race and the water god race. This was because he had seen the portraits of these 2 clans in the wood god clan. But overall, compared to the wood god clan, these 2 clans were slightly stronger. Seeing that Lin Ling did not give him face, Yu Quan was clearly enraged. But Lin Ling ignored him and asked Xiaoluan, "Did they do anything to you?" Xiaoluan immediately shook his head. No, as soon as they arrived, Milord appeared. Obviously, Xiaoluan didn't want to cause any trouble, so she hid the fact that the group of people had cursed at her. This also made Lin Ling nod his head and want to leave with Xiaoluan. Wait a moment. What is that wooden box in your hand? At this moment, Jin Yi suddenly spoke. Previously, he had seen Lin Ling rush out from under the ancient lake. Could it be that Lin Ling had obtained the treasure left behind by the realm scorpion? We want to see that wooden box. If it's something ordinary, I'll let you go. Princess Shui Wan also spoke. Hearing that, Lin Ling smiled. Holding Xiaoluan's hand, he turned around and left. Throughout the entire process, he didn't even look at them. What a joke. Lin Ling had risked his life to obtain the treasure in this wooden box. Did they think they could take a look just because they said so? Despicable human, stop right there. Seeing that Lin Ling was actually ignoring her, Princess Shui Wan immediately shouted. Lowly people will always be lowly people. They will only hang out with filthy people. There are too many filthy and ignorant people in this world. That's why the world is so turbid. Jin Yi also spoke up. This was because he was also angry. In his opinion, he was a noble member of the Gold God clan. When ordinary humans saw him, they would have to kneel down and salute him. Apart from the top human experts, whom he would give some face to, others weren't even worthy of carrying his shoes. What a perfect match. I wanted to search that filthy girl's body, but she was too filthy, so I had her take off her clothes. If you hadn't come, humph, she would definitely have obediently taken off those filthy clothes. Princess Shui Wan said in a strange tone. Two filthy servants. Do you only know how to run away when you see us, the Gold God clan? The others also spoke one after another. At this moment, Lin Ling finally stopped. He ignored the lowly people they were talking about and looked at Xiaoluan instead. Is what they said true? Xiaoluan immediately lowered his head, not daring to look at Lin Ling. However, this also made Lin Ling instantly understand. Those guys actually wanted Xiaoluan to take off his clothes? Did Xiaoluan provoke them? Why were their demands so excessive? Did they not know that forcing a girl to take off her clothes was trampling on her dignity? A flame of anger burned in Lin Ling's heart. Holding Xiaoluan's hand, Lin Ling slowly turned around and couldn't help but mock. You bunch of trash, your mouths are really smelly. Could it be that you grew up eating shit? Shit! What kind of trash is the Gold God clan? Could it be that your ancestors were a bunch of lowly slaves, so in order to make you feel arrogant, you open your mouth and call others filthy? Unfortunately, slaves are still slaves. Lin Ling looked at Jin Yi and said. Jin Yi's pupils trembled fiercely, and the veins on his forehead bulged. One had to know that he had mocked Lin Ling because he was in a bad mood. After all, Lin Ling didn't give him any face. Who would have thought that Lin Ling would dare to resist? Hee hee, Priestess Jin Yi, it seems that your Gold God clan isn't noble enough. However, seeing Jin Yi being mocked, Princess Shui Wan seemed very happy. Although the Gold God clan and the Water God clan didn't have any great enmity, they were still fighting both openly and secretly. Now that the Gold God clan had lost face, the Water God clan was naturally happy. You aren't any better. You're a girl, but you have no manners. You open your mouth and call others filthy. It seems that you didn't have parents to discipline you. In my opinion, you can't even compare to my Xiaoluan. However, Lin Ling looked at Princess Shui Wan again. You're scolding me? You're saying that I, a noble princess, can't compare to her? Princess Shui Wan was stunned. Yes, I'm scolding you. Why are you pretending to be noble? Do you know what etiquette is? Do you know what it means to be a daughter of a noble family? Do you know what the 3 obediences and 4 virtues are? You're just a shrew. Lin Ling's voice was like thunder, and every word was like a gem. You. Princess Shui Wan's face turned ashen. Let's not talk about other things. Just take the 3 obedience and 4 virtues as an example. You don't understand them at all. Obey the father before marriage, obey the husband after marriage, and obey the son after the husband's death. These are the 3 virtues. If you're a shrew, cursing in public, you're a disgrace to your tribe. The 4 virtues refer to women's virtue, women's speech, women's appearance, and women's achievements. Everyone in the Water God clan was trembling with anger. Their princess was actually scolded like a shrew. On the contrary, Yu Quan and the others were secretly laughing. However, Lin Ling's spearhead quickly turned to him, and you guys, you're humans, but you're revering people from other clans. Which academy are you from? You're a disgrace to the final world. Could it be that you and your family are dogs? Shut up. Yu Quan was stunned, and the veins on his forehead popped out. Go give him a few slaps. I want to see his teeth fall out. Yu Quan finally couldn't take it anymore and shouted. Don't worry. Even if you don't say it, I'll break his teeth. Let's see what else he can say. Jin Yi sneered. His previous anger was completely suppressed by him. Since he was scolding so freely, then it was time to welcome his anger. Don't kill him. Leave him to me. I want to give him a few slaps too. Chapter 38-21. It wasn't that he didn't dare, but that he didn't care. Jin Yi immediately nodded heavily and walked out step by step. Boy, I don't know who you are, but I know that your mouth stinks. No matter how smelly it is, it can't compare to your cheap mouth. Lin Ling also sneered. In his heart, the flames of fury were still burning. Upon hearing Lin Ling's words, Yu Quan suddenly said in a strange tone, It seems that your golden god priest's reputation isn't that great. Even a human slave looks down on you. Hee, we don't care if they scold us in front of us, but the Golden God clan is being scolded as well. Isn't that treating the Golden God clan as a lowly existence? Behind Yu Quan, someone spoke up. All of them revealed ridiculing expressions because as far as they were concerned, the blue-robed young man was dead for sure. In fact, when Lin Ling walked out with the wooden box in his hand, this group of people had no intention of letting him go. It was just that before they made their move, they had said a few words. They had never thought that Lin Ling would dare to scold them so crazily. Voices rang out one after another, causing Jin Yi's expression to darken once more. It was as if he had not won glory for the Golden God clan and had instead lost face. The Gold God clan could be looked down upon by the Water God clan, but they could never be looked down upon by humans. I'm going to give you 3 hard slaps. Of course, I'm going to include that filthy woman behind you. Jin Yi licked his lips and said coldly. Hearing this, Lin Ling was taken aback. He immediately thought of Shaoluan, and the anger in his heart exploded. He roared, Filthy Golden God clan, are you done with your bullshit? His words were like arrows, shaking Jin Yi's heart. He didn't waste any more words. A dazzling light appeared on the surface of his body. The entire cave instantly lit up, and in the blink of an eye, Jin Yi vanished from where he stood. 1200 world speed erupted. A scorching hot palm slapped toward Lin Ling at a speed faster than light. If the slap were to land on the face of a martial progenitor, it would be enough to kill them instantly. However, Lin Ling also sneered. He stood straight like a pine tree and gently stretched out his right hand. Although the battle with the realm scorpion had consumed a lot of his physical strength recovered extremely quickly. Since he didn't consume any realm essence, he wasn't afraid of Jin Yi. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. In the air, Jin Yi wanted to slap Lin Ling's face, but she was stopped by Lin Ling. How lucky! Jin Yi coldly snorted. Lucky? Lin Ling erupted with all his strength. His 6 stanchions surged with world essence. His arm was like a heavenly blessing, ruthlessly pressing down on Jin Yi's palm. This caused Jin Yi's eyes to flash. She knew that she had underestimated this human. As expected of a barbarian, do you only know how to use brute force? Jin Yi immediately said coldly. Almost at the same time, the light on his body became even more dazzling. At this time, a large amount of golden light shot towards him from the surrounding rocks, causing the light to reach its limit. So, when light reaches its limit, it's actually so terrifying. Sensing the dazzling light, Yuquan and the others' expressions changed slightly. Then, they all closed their eyes because the light was so dazzling that it could blind them. Moreover, other than their eyes, all their 5 senses were shocked by the golden light and disappeared without a trace. It felt as if they were in a white world. They couldn't see anything, hear any sound, or feel any airflow. At the same time, in the dazzling light, a palm seemed to be condensed from light. It slapped towards Lin Ling's face at an unimaginable speed. "Can you block my golden light?" Jin Yi's voice accompanied it. He was clearly warning Lin Ling that he was going to attack. However, he also knew that the warning was useless. This human couldn't react at all. In fact, this was indeed the case. Jin Yi clearly sensed that the palm had already landed on Lin Ling's face. In fact, he was already waiting for the crisp sound of the slap. However, Lin Ling, who was in front of him, suddenly disappeared after he swung his palm. Instead, a white palm slapped over fiercely beside him. Slap! A crisp sound rang out, causing all the dazzling light to disappear. Instead, Jin Yi stood there in midair. His pupils were constantly twitching, and a palm print appeared on his face. Beside him, Lin Ling had one hand behind his back. The other hand was still in a slapping posture as he looked at him indifferently. Jin Yi thought that his light was very powerful, but he didn't know that Lin Ling had secretly used the god's steps to bring Jin Yi into his own world and seal all his power. This also meant that not only was Lin Ling not afraid of the golden light, but he could even see Jin Yi's every move. However, Lin Ling's slap wasn't heavy. It didn't even make Jin Yi waver. However, what he hit was his dignity and the pride of the Gold God clan. "You hit my face." Jin Yi stroked his cheek as if he hadn't reacted yet. However, his pupils were already bloodshot. "That's right. I did hit your face." Lin Ling stood beside Jin Yi and said indifferently, "I didn't care about you before, not because I didn't dare, but because I didn't care. However, you even dared to bully my people. If I didn't do anything, it wouldn't be because I didn't care. It would be because I didn't dare." As soon as he said this, Jin Yi's pupils constricted. He stared at Lin Ling, but Lin Ling's expression remained unchanged. He said calmly, "Gold God clan, are you very proud? But now, it seems that you've embarrassed yourself. Remember, so-called pride doesn't rely on your mouth, but on your fists." As soon as he said this, Lin Ling threw a punch. At that moment, the realm-swallowing beast, the double dragon talent, and the evil ghost jellyfish appeared behind him. Rumble. That punch was so powerful that it sent Jin Yi flying. He smashed into the cave wall in the distance and finally fell into the ancient lake. At that moment, everyone frowned. Jin Yi's strength was not weak. According to the human world's evaluation, he could definitely enter the top 300 on the divine list. However, he couldn't block that man's punch. Moreover, he was beaten so badly. Lin Ling's eyes moved and fell on Yuquan. Immediately, Yuquan's pupils trembled, and he took a step back subconsciously. "In fact, you're the same. No matter what kind of person you are, which academy you're from, or which alliance you're from, in my eyes, you're just an ant. The reason why I ignored you before was also because I didn't care. Do you really think you're so arrogant?" Lin Ling said calmly. His words were like a sword that pierced deeply into Yuquan's heart. His body was trembling. That was because he was an expert from the academy and a powerhouse on the divine list. However, he was being humiliated like this. "You're courting death." However, at that moment, the ancient lake exploded, and Jin Yi rushed out again. Obviously, he was angry. However, he was only halfway there when suddenly, a figure appeared like a ghost and slammed him into the cave wall. Then, a hand grabbed his neck and pinned him to the cave wall. Chapter 38-22. Their auras collided. With Jin Yi's strength, how could he be a match for the golden white evil ghost at the martial ancestor realm? The golden white evil ghost even looked at him with a creepy smile as if he wanted to eat Jin Yi. This made Jin Yi's heart tremble and he did not dare to say a word. If you really want to die, I can satisfy your wish. You only need to say one more word. Now, you can try. Go. Lin Ling also looked at Jin Yi indifferently. However, did Jin Yi dare to say anything? Not at all. They had come here arrogantly to humiliate Xiao Luan and thought that they had extraordinary backgrounds. However, now, they were all suppressed by Lin Ling and did not dare to speak. It seems that you don't dare to say anything either. This means that your so-called nobility is actually a pile of shit. Go. Seeing that Jin Yi did not dare to speak, Lin Ling withdrew his gaze and looked at Princess Shui Wan again. This time, everyone suddenly gritted their teeth. Lin Ling had humiliated Jin Yi of the Gold God clan. Now, he was going to humiliate the princess of the Water God clan? Princess Shui Wan's face became extremely cold. In front of powerful strength, any nobility was indeed a pile of shit. Now that Lin Ling was looking directly at her, she obviously did not dare to speak rashly. Speak. However, Lin Ling questioned her. However, Princess Shui Wan still did not speak. She was so angry that her body trembled. She had never thought that the filthy woman would know a martial god realm expert. Moreover, the blue-robed young man was not weak either. In the end, she could only endure the humiliation. Remember, when you laugh at others for being filthy, you don't know that in other people's hearts, you are also a filthy woman and your heart is filthy. Lin Ling reprimanded her directly and looked at the crowd. You must have come for the World Scorpion. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that the World Scorpion has already left. Moreover, you think that you can intimidate the World Scorpion by joining forces. I have to say that you have a sharp tongue, but your brains are idiots. Idiots? When these words came out, everyone trembled. Because they had a powerful background, when had they ever been scolded like this? It's all thanks to a senior at the martial god realm. Suddenly, Yu Quan spoke in a low voice. What he meant was that they had allowed Lin Ling to reprimand them because they were afraid of the martial god realm expert. They weren't afraid of Lin Ling at all. It seems that not only is your mouth cheap, your heart is even more cheap. Are you trying to goad me? Lin Ling also instantly looked at Yu Quan, causing the latter to open his mouth, but in the end, he did not dare to speak. However, at this moment, Lin Ling spoke again. However, even though I know that you're trying to goad me, I still like to fall for it. Come on, let's fight. Let me see what other skills you have besides your cheap mouth. Everyone's eyes instantly lit up. Even though Lin Ling had defeated Jin Yi earlier, they'd noticed that Jin Yi had only underestimated her opponent for a moment. When Jin Yi was about to use her full strength, the martial god had arrived. This meant that although the blue-robed young man was very powerful, it was not impossible for him to win. Moreover, Yu Quan wasn't weak. He was ranked in the top 300 on the Divine Stairway and was an expert from Miaoshan College's third hall. Miaoshan College was from the Miaoshan dynasty and was ranked second among the 36 colleges. It was ranked 1 point higher than the E-Garden. Brother Yu, although his strength isn't weak, it's probably just a facade. You're an expert ranked in the top 300, so you can definitely defeat him. The expert from the E-Garden whose arm had been broken by Lin Ling earlier spoke in a low voice. Yu Quan nodded, but he still didn't feel relieved. Because his ranking and background were too strong. If he defeated Lin Ling, he would only be able to vent his anger, and no one would think that he was formidable. After all, Lin Ling was just a nobody. On the contrary, if he lost, it would bring humiliation to him, a humiliation as great as the heavens. If you dare, then you dare, if you don't dare, then you don't dare. You're so wishy-washy, what kind of cultivator are you? While he was hesitating, Lin Ling shouted again with an overbearing aura. Do you really want to fight me? Yu Quan's eyes turned cold as he said coldly. That's right. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Have you ever thought that if you lose, this might be the biggest decision you'll make in your life? Yu Quan said in a low voice. His tone was still arrogant, but it was filled with strong confidence as if he would definitely win. In fact, he believed that as long as he was on guard against Lin Ling, he would definitely win. He was at least 80% confident that he would win. Are all of you so-called experts, so-called people above others, so idiotic? If you dare to fight, then fight. If you don't dare to fight, then shut up. Does your babbling prove that you're noble and powerful? Lin Ling's voice also became low. Finally, Yu Quan stepped forward. The aura of a half-step to martial god burst out mightily. You're so arrogant. Haven't you thought about our background? Are we someone you can afford to offend? Yu Quan's voice became louder as his terrifying aura surged. He had started to be aggressive. Lin Ling, since you're forcing me to fight, let's make Lin Ling regret his decision. Bang bang bang. The cave began to tremble. It seemed like Yu Quan was stronger than Jin Yi. However, that was not the case. It was just that Yu Quan was more prepared. I've underestimated my opponent. The truth is, he's only an intermediate martial progenitor. At that instant, Jin Yi was still being held back by the golden white demon, but she still spoke confidently. Everyone's eyes flickered upon hearing her words, including Yu Quan's. His boundary force of the half-step to martial god realm surged toward Lin Ling like a giant wave, as if it were going to tear Lin Ling into pieces. However, Lin Ling did not back off. He even took a step forward amid the giant wave. You're so arrogant. Have you thought about the consequences? His aura was unleashed as he uttered the words. As the sound of Lin Ling's voice faded, a similarly terrifying amount of world essence erupted forth. It was like a blazing sun hanging high in the sky, illuminating the 9 heavens. These two auras collided madly, opposing each other with equal harshness. I, Yu Quan, come from Yen State. 300 years ago, I came to the final world as a representative of Yen State. I was valued by the final world's Miaozhou Academy and became a student of the academy. I'm the most powerful person in Yen State. In 300 years, I've become a top expert in Shinsan Hall. I've even entered the divine list and become one of the top 300 deities. Yu Quan did not back down and took another step forward. If his aura was like a giant wave before, then he was like a heavenly tribulation at that moment. His words caused the people from the Water God tribe and the Gold God tribe to tremble. They were not like the Wood God tribe, who hid in the demonic forest all year round and isolated themselves from the rest of the world. As they often interacted with humans, they knew what it meant to become one of the top 300 deities in the divine list in 300 years. Compared to Yu Quan, the blue-robed young man had no right to be arrogant. Chapter 38-23. Who do you think you are? I, Lin Ling, come from Qing Province. 10 years ago, I represented Qing Province in the final world and entered Snow Wind Academy. In less than a year, I became an expert of Shin Second Hall. In less than 3 years, I became the #1 expert of Shin Third Hall. Lin Ling's voice was unprecedentedly firm. He wasn't afraid of the wind and rain. He wouldn't be alarmed even if the sky collapsed. In his mind, these people were the top experts of the Third Hall, but if he wasn't as strong as them, how could he talk about defeating Wen Tian martial god's disciple? A sharp aura gushed out from Lin Ling's body. It was like a sword that cut through all thorns and pierced the 9 heavens. This sharp aura caused everyone's pupils to constrict. In less than a year, he became an expert of Shin Second Hall. In less than 3 years, he became the #1 expert of Shin Third Hall. In less than 10 years, he defeated an expert of Shin Third Hall. This meant that after this guy called Lin Ling entered the final world, he didn't even need 10 years to reach the heavens. If Yu Quan was a monster, then Lin Ling could be called a genius. Was there a need to compare 300 years to 10 years? Especially the few humans, they were silent. Compared to Lin Ling, they were undoubtedly overshadowed. But they, who were as weak as ants, dared to show off in front of Lin Ling and even called him a lowly commoner. This was very ironic. Besides, the young man in blue clothes was so strong, but they hadn't heard of him before. Maybe he had risen to prominence later on, or maybe he was lying. After all, it was impossible for him to defeat a cultivator who was ranked 300th on the celestial stairway in 10 years. When he heard Lin Ling's words, Yu Quan was clearly shaken. In addition to Lin Ling's sharp aura and surging Jia Yuan, Yu Quan felt a sweetness in his throat as if he had suffered a heavy blow. This was something that Yu Quan couldn't imagine. Because of his aura and cultivation, he wanted to suppress Lin Ling, but Lin Ling's aura was like a sword. Not only was he not suppressed, but he also felt a backlash. But he was indeed an expert of Shen Third Hall. He faced Lin Ling's sharp aura and took another step forward. There is a difference in the final world. Only those with ultimate desolate bodies are above the rest. And among ultimate desolate bodies, grade 5 and above are the best. As for me, I'm a grade 8 extreme thunderstorm fire leopard. I'm blessed by the heavens and have a God-bestowed body. Grade 8, grade 8. How can you compare with me? Rumble. Just as Yu Quan finished speaking, a divine leopard roared behind him. With just one roar, endless dense thunder swept in all directions. The rocks at the bottom of the cave instantly fell like rain, even passing through the thick ground and reaching the grassland above. Grade 8. Jin Yi and Princess Mu Wan's eyes lit up. No wonder Yu Quan's status was so high. His strength was not weak at all. A desolate was desolate. Third hall's heaven is desolate. Heaven is heaven is heaven is it desolate is heaven descend is you is desolate is you. Yu Quan wanted to use his powerful talent to let Lin Ling know his inferiority. Lin Ling's long hair was blown up by the wind, but he smiled faintly. Grade 8, no wonder. Although Yu Quan was also a grade 8 talent, Lin Ling could feel that Wanyan Bupo's talent was stronger. This meant that Wanyan Bupo's ranking on Shen Third Hall was higher. Talent is important, but it's not the only thing. Lin Ling's voice became hoarse. Endless black fog spread out and his talent started to fuse. Only trash would find excuses and refuse to admit the failure in front of them. No matter what you say, without talent, you can't open the door to the final world. Before an 8th grade talent, you are as dim as a firefly. Yu Quan roared. Endless thunderstorm roared and finally arrived in front of Lin Ling. But at this moment, a dragon claw came from the void, domineering and destroying everything. The dragon claw suddenly clenched into a fist and punched towards the thunderstorm. Grade 8 talent is not enough to move me. Accompanied by a dragon-like roar, Princess Mu Wan and the rest's expression changed. What kind of aura was this? It gave people a feeling that it was not weaker than Yu Quan's. Compared to Princess Mu Wan and the rest's shock, Yu Quan's heart changed. This was because the terrifying punch gave him endless pressure. To be able to make him feel pressured, could this be the ultimate desolate body of a grade 9 talent? Or even a grade 10 talent? This punch is too powerful. Subsequently, Yu Quan felt dispirited. It was as though he faintly knew that he would not be able to receive this punch. Rumble. Sure enough, the moment the fist and palm collided, all of the dense lightning was smashed apart, spewing out in all directions. Yu Quan's palm seemed like it was about to collapse. Retreat. Yu Quan was terrified. Without any hesitation, he frantically retreated. But it was too late. Lin Ling's dragon fist followed up with an unstoppable force, like a dragon rushing out of the 9 prefectures. Bang! After the punch broke through the thunderstorm palm, it landed heavily on Yu Quan's chest, sending him flying like a cannonball. He smashed into the opposite cave wall and finally landed on one knee on the ground. Everyone was silent as their pupils trembled. Yu Quan had also lost. This mysterious youth, who was only at the mid-stage martial ancestor realm, was too powerful. If they were still doubting whether Lin Ling could achieve such a feat in 10 years, they were starting to believe it now. Talent is not the only key to opening the door to the final world. And in mid-air, Lin Ling, who had transformed into a monster, floated there as he looked at everyone indifferently. That glance made everyone lower their heads. It was as if Lin Ling's eyes were the extremely resplendent sun, forcing them to not look straight at him. In terms of Jia Yuan's aura, the mysterious youth had won. In terms of talent, the mysterious youth had won again. What right did Yu Quan have to be arrogant in front of him? Furthermore, Yu Quan had previously said that he had an 8th grade talent and was absolutely qualified to open the door to the final world. However, the mysterious youth's talent was of a higher grade than his, yet he had remained silent. Yet, Yu Quan had been so complacent. Wasn't he overestimating himself? You've defeated me. At that moment, Yu Quan raised his head as blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. As he spoke, he spat out another mouthful of blood. Previously, he had thought that he was noble and insufferably arrogant. However, he could not even block a single attack from someone else. Now, his heart was filled with shame and he felt so ashamed that he could not show his face. Aren't you noble? Aren't you humiliating others? Now, it seems that you can't even block a single punch. Where did you get your confidence from? Don't tell me you're shameless. Lin Ling calmly looked at Yu Quan as he spoke. Yu Quan was speechless. Even Jin Yi, who was being held back by the golden-white evil spirit in the distance, turned pale and could not refute. He had thought that he had underestimated his opponent. However, it now seemed that even if he used his full strength, he might not be a match for the young man. You all called me a lowly commoner. Now, it seems that you're nothing. Chapter 38-24. A cloud-piercing arrow. What were they? From the looks of it, they were nothing. Don't think that just because you are from the Gold God tribe and the Water God tribe, you are very noble. In fact, you are just humans. If you want to humiliate others, you have to be prepared for the possibility of being humiliated by others. With that, Lin Ling turned and left. Everyone looked at the backs of those people and remained silent. Even though they knew that Lin Ling had taken the realm scorpion's treasure, they did not dare to act rashly. This was because they might not even be a match for the blue-robed youth, let alone the martial god realm expert. When Lin Ling passed through the ancient lake and arrived at the water curtain cave, the giant ghost had been waiting for him for a long time. He looked at Lin Ling indifferently and said, "Why didn't you kill him?" "They are not weak," Lin Ling said with a sigh. His previous punch was considered his full strength. However, it had only injured Yu Quan. If it was anyone else, they would have been killed by him. This also meant that Lin Ling had to use his full strength to defeat a half-step martial god with an 8th grade ultimate desolate body. However, not long ago, he had used the great solar calamity destroying Biyao and the step of wisdom. In the short term, it would be difficult for him to use these two moves again. Of course, one of the reasons why Lin Ling did not follow up with another attack was that he did not want to waste time here. They are just passers-by. Don't mind them. Lin Ling followed Xiaoluan in front of the cave and smiled casually. However, Xiaoluan was extremely touched. She knew that Lord Lin Ling had taken action because of her. In her life, this was the first time she had seen someone willing to stand up for her. Tears began to well up in her eyes. Unfortunately, Lin Ling, who was following behind her, did not see it. Instead, he asked the giant ghost, "What is this fruit?" "At present, according to my estimation, it should be the fruit of fate." The giant ghost said, "The fruit of fate is the fate of thousands of lives in the world. With this fruit, it is said that one can meet people they have known for thousands of lives. It can also inexplicably give birth to love and so on." Hearing this, Lin Ling shook his head. A fruit that had been blessed by the gods was really rare. Then wouldn't the owner of the fruit of fortune be blessed? Lin Ling suddenly asked. The giant ghost nodded. That's right. Good fortune is different from luck. Luck can be great or small, but no matter how great your fortune is, that's all there is to it. However, it can be much better than ordinary people. That's why mortals say that those who are blessed are blessed. Therefore, the person who has this fruit will have a better life than ordinary people. Hearing this, Lin Ling pursed his lips. This was because he realized that although these 3 fruits were very magical, they were actually more useful for ordinary people. Of course, with the 3 great fruits, he could also refine the human king's flame. Right now, he was only missing 1 fruit. However, this kind of fruit could only be found by chance. The next fruit seemed simple, but in reality, if he really wanted to find it, he was afraid that there would be a lot of twists and turns. Let's rest here. After that, Lin Ling suddenly suggested in a relatively clean cave. That was because he'd continuously executed the true inheritance, dark sword, and this caused his tacit understanding with this sword to become stronger and stronger. The true inheritance dark sword was Li Xiaoyao's sword. It was incomparably powerful. However, after Lin Ling reincarnated, he had not been able to activate the full power of this sword. That was because this body was not Li Xiaoyao's after all. Of course, compared to other people, Lin Ling's mastery of this sword was already very fast. For example, martial god Qilin had also been studying this sword because this sword could produce a strand of divine power. However, after many years, he had no results. While Lin Ling was temporarily comprehending, on the prairie, a large number of people were riding huge mounts, all of them heading in a certain direction. A cloud-piercing arrow, thousands of troops come to meet me. Leader. The person in the lead was riding a fiery bull. His eyes were looking at the vast prairie. This bull was 5 meters tall, and its nostrils were spitting fire. It was extraordinarily mighty. Whoosh! The arrow in his hand shot out, piercing through the clouds. In the sky, red petals bloomed and dyed the prairie's sky red. Of course, it was more like blood. As soon as the arrow was shot, the grassland began to tremble. Grass and leaves flew everywhere. Regardless of whether it was the people on the road or the people in the mines, everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. There was a hint of madness in their eyes. These people were dressed in all kinds of strange clothes, but they all had one thing in common. That was a piece of red cloth tied to their arms. This was the Red Alliance. The arrow just now was the order to summon the Red Alliance's army. The Red Alliance's order was that those who saw the arrow had to gather as soon as possible. And this arrow also shot towards a certain direction in the sky, dyeing that part of the sky red. However, in the nearby mines, everyone's expression changed greatly. The owners of these mines came from different places. Overall, their strength was not very strong. However, they had to pay protection fees to these huge alliances to have the qualifications to mine. One of the alliances that had to pay protection fees was the Red Alliance. The Red Alliance had a large number of people. They covered more than half of the prairie. Of course, they only dared to act like a tyrant in front of ordinary people. Even so, it was a nightmare for the smaller mines. The Red Alliance is going to clear out the mines. This time, they gathered thousands of troops. It must be the leader's order. I wonder which mine is so unlucky. In the vicinity, there are only 4 ore veins that don't follow the rules. However, I heard that 2 of the ore veins have been forced to leave the Guyuan mountain range. One of the ore veins was completely annihilated, while the other ore vein suddenly got acquainted with a powerful backer at a critical moment. The Red Alliance also gave them face by only charging them a small protection fee and allowing them to mine. The last ore vein is the God Slayer Alliance's ore vein. It must be the God Slayer Alliance. Their leader is very arrogant. Not only did they not pay protection fees, they even occupied the mine and refused to leave. TSK, the Red Alliance even sent out the cloud-piercing arrow. This time, the Red Alliance's patience has reached its limit. The people in the smaller mines were all talking about it. As they were talking, a large number of strong people, either on foot or on their mounts, marched across the prairie. Wherever they passed, the people in the mines did not dare to speak. They even bowed their heads to welcome them. The group of people who walked past had red cloth wrapped around their arms. They were the Red Alliance. This time, the Red Alliance's movement shook the entire area. This was because the Red Alliance had sent out many strong people. Their numbers could be said to cover the entire mountain. This was also the Red Alliance's intention. As the local tyrant, if they wanted to be respected, they had to show a certain level of strength. Chapter 38-25. The Red Alliance had arrived. This was because the Red Alliance had responded to them. This would greatly increase the prestige of their mines. Moreover, through some of the discussions, the people knew that the Red Alliance's target was indeed the God Slayer Alliance. This time, I'm afraid they have sent out a leader. Someone stood at a high vantage point and looked down. Immediately, he spoke solemnly. This was because the members of the Red Alliance were all heading in the same direction. That direction was the God Slayer Alliance. As for the God Slayer Alliance, everyone was puzzled because the sky above them had been dyed red with blood. Some of the miners who believed in evil were even more terrified. They no longer had the heart to mine. As for Ye Shui and the other leaders, they were all gathered on the city wall and looking into the distance. What happened? Ye Shui frowned and said. She had a bad premonition. Sir, that's the Red Alliance. A miner stammered. Upon hearing this, Dream Flow and the others' expressions immediately changed, but they were also puzzled. What exactly is the Red Alliance doing? However, they soon found out why the Red Alliance was here. This was because the green grass in front of them was wriggling in an orderly manner. However, after a short moment, the endless green grass collapsed. A large number of people began to appear in the distant horizon. They were actually charging towards the God Slayer Alliance in an encirclement. Moreover, as time passed, those people became clearer and clearer. There were more and more of them. It could be said that there was a sea of people. The Red Alliance is attacking us. In the stronghold, everyone's heart was beating wildly, and some of them even turned pale. A piercing cloud arrow. This is the order of the leader of the Red Alliance. Those miners obviously knew more than the God Slayer Alliance. Soon after, they started shouting in panic. Don't panic, don't panic. Meng Lu immediately shouted, but his expression was extremely solemn. The miners finally stopped shouting, but it was clear from their faces that they were still in a state of panic. Meng Lu and the others also looked into the distance and frowned. The Red Alliance had sent out so many people. Were they really going to wipe them all out? Where is Lord Lin Ling? Meng Lu looked at Yi Yeshua and said. Yi Yeshua was the expert guarding the stronghold, so she should know where Lin Ling was. Lin Ling has entered the mine. As for Sakura, he is still in seclusion. Should we inform him? Yi Shui replied. Meng Lu immediately shook his head. Sakura was in seclusion, and it was obviously not suitable to disturb him at this time. As for Lin Ling, they were also helpless because the mines were connected in all directions. Wanting to find Lin Ling in a short period of time wasn't easy. Now that both of them were gone, it was up to them to block the Red Alliance's attack. After a long while, the experts of the Red Alliance arrived. The mountains were filled with people, and they were not weak at all. Their aura dispersed the clouds in the sky. Red Alliance. Red Alliance. Red Alliance. Soon after, orderly voices rang out, causing the prairie to continue to tremble. This was also their way of pressuring the God Slayer Alliance. To put it bluntly, it was a show of strength. And that was indeed the case. All the miners were trembling, and even some of the newcomers of the God Slayer Alliance were trembling. All right. However, at this time, the leader of the Red Alliance saw that the pressure was about to end, so he finally raised his hand. As soon as this hand gesture was made, the prairie, which had been filled with an imposing aura, suddenly became silent. Zhen Sanshan, you say it. The leader, who was riding on the blazing bull, said indifferently. God Slayer Alliance, you don't follow the rules. From the crowd, a man immediately walked out excitedly. He was Jin Sanshan. At this moment, when he saw the Red Alliance, he immediately laughed loudly. His gaze swept across everyone in the Red Alliance with contempt, mixed with a hint of pride. Everyone in the Red Alliance looked at him angrily because everyone guessed that this guy must have exaggerated in front of the Red Alliance. That was why the Red Alliance had sent their army here. Ha ha ha, your God Slayer Alliance is doomed today. Jin Sanshan finally couldn't help but laugh loudly. Jin Sanshan, we, the Red Alliance, are reasonable people, so don't be rash. However, the leader next to him said indifferently. He knew that at this moment, in the distant horizon, there must be many people from the mine watching. Therefore, the Red Alliance had to create the illusion that they were just and impartial. The God Slayer Alliance openly provoked the Red Alliance, captured a few people from the Red Alliance, and rode them like dogs. Jin Sanshan didn't dare to disobey and immediately said in a dignified manner, among these people, one of them is called Young Master Tian. Rode like a dog? Hearing this, many of the Red Alliance's people were unhappy. They had never seen such an arrogant guy in the Red Alliance. Nonsense, Young Master Tian humiliated us first. We're just returning an eye for an eye. However, at this moment, an indignant voice floated out. It was Li Hongwang. I don't care about the conflict between you, but Young Master Tian is a member of the Red Alliance. Let me ask you, did you kill them? If not, let them go. The leader immediately said coldly. His strength was at the peak of the martial ancestor realm, but his talent was not weak. He had reached the 7th rank. Dream on. Li Hongwang immediately snorted. Young Master Tian was a member of the God Slayer Alliance, and the Red Alliance didn't stand up for him. Now that they were returning an eye for an eye, the Red Alliance thought that the God Slayer Alliance was the one who started the trouble. However, at the side, Meng Lu suddenly said indifferently, let them go. He could see that the situation was beyond their control. If a conflict broke out, they wouldn't be afraid. However, no one could guarantee that the God Slayer Alliance wouldn't die. Therefore, it would be best if there was no conflict. I, Young Master Tian, am free. God Slayer Alliance, I've said it before. If you dare to provoke me, you're dead meat. After a while, a door appeared in the moat. Young Master Tian and a few others swaggered out. Although their faces were bruised, they were undoubtedly arrogant. This was because they knew that the God Slayer Alliance was going to suffer. Young Master Tian and his group are one of the reasons. Secondly, the God Slayer Alliance violated the rules and secretly opened mines. All the mines in the prairie have joined forces to suppress them. Now, you only have one choice, and that is to get out of the Guyuan Mountains. At this time, Jin Sanshan spoke of the God Slayer Alliance's crimes as if they were his family's treasures. This crime was not light. It was tantamount to challenging the rules of the prairie. Therefore, Meng Lu had no choice but to speak. Your Excellency, we didn't secretly hire miners. Lord Lu can testify to this. I don't know who Lord Lu is. I only know that the Red Alliance didn't know that you hired miners, and you didn't report this to the Red Alliance. Therefore, you have violated the rules. After all, the Red Alliance is protecting the peace of one side, while you reap the benefits. Shouldn't you abide by the rules? Chapter 38-26. The Rules of the Great Prairie. These words infuriated the members of the God Slayer Alliance so much that they started gnashing their teeth. First, if they wanted to hire miners, they only needed to ask for permission from the Mining Workers Union. It had nothing to do with the Red Alliance. Secondly, the Red Alliance would protect the safety of the region? What a joke! When they were mining the ore veins, the God Slayer Alliance had to bear all the dangers they encountered. Not to mention other things, even the usual guards were taken care of by the God Slayer Alliance. The Red Alliance was obviously using this as an excuse to nitpick. Meng Lu and Wangu Wuji's eyes turned red as they clenched their fists. Finally, Wangu Wuji snapped, "Bullshit." Boom. As soon as the curses were heard, countless people in the surroundings narrowed their eyes. Their killing intent surged as they all looked at the God Slayer Alliance. That terrifying aura was like a raging storm, crashing into the God-slaying alliance until they were on the verge of collapse. If you want to fight, then let's fight. What's with the nonsense? Meng Lu could not hold it in any longer. He knew that the other party was deliberately looking for trouble, so no matter how humble they were, it was useless. Looks like you guys are stubborn. However, the leader of the Red Alliance didn't get angry. It was as if he already knew this would happen. He raised his hand high and ordered the experts around him to prepare for the final charge. To be honest, with so many experts charging at them, it would be difficult for the God Slayer Alliance to escape the fate of total annihilation. This also made the mine owners who were watching from afar sigh. Sigh, is the arm harder than the leg? The God Slayer Alliance is too stubborn. The Red Alliance has clearly wronged you. The God Slayer Alliance had no choice but to accept the loss. If they resisted, they would have played right into the Red Alliance's hands. I'm afraid the Red Alliance has taken over the God Slayer Alliance's mine. These people began to discuss animatedly. Wait. But at this moment, two figures slowly walked up the steps on the city wall, and these two people were Lin Ling and Sakura. Upon seeing the two of them, the members of the God Slayer Alliance became excited. It was as if they had seen their backbone arrive. Lin Ling, Old Emperor. Meng Lu and the others were overjoyed. To be honest, although they were used to big scenes, it would be a lie to say that they did not panic when being surrounded by so many martial progenitors. Fortunately, Lin Ling and the others came out. And Lin Ling had just walked out of the mine when he saw Sakura. After the two of them knew what had happened, they immediately rushed over. However, when the two of them reached the top of the city wall, their expressions changed. Sakura's expression was solemn, knowing that today's confrontation was of great importance. On the other hand, Lin Ling was still relaxed. He was just surprised by the number of people in the Red Alliance. Soon after, Lin Ling looked at Sakura and nodded to him, meaning to let Sakura speak on behalf of the village. Sakura understood and looked at the leader of the Red Alliance. Leader, let's not beat around the bush. So, let's get straight to the point. What do you want to do? Sakura, who gave you the guts to speak to the leader like this? Seeing Sakura directly questioning him, Jin Sanshan also shouted angrily. However, Sakura didn't even bother to look at him. Similarly, the guy called Young Master Tian also pointed at Lin Ling and said angrily, "He's the one who rode me like a dog. The Red Alliance wants to stand up for me." Their voices were filled with murderous intent. However, on top of the city wall, Lin Ling finally sneered and said, "Is the Red Alliance so unruly? This is a negotiation between our two alliances. How can a small soldier speak so rudely? What a joke. If a huge alliance doesn't have rules, how can you talk about the prairie's rules?" It had to be said that this sentence hit the nail on the head. The leader of the Red Alliance waved his hand and stopped Jin Sanshan and the others from speaking. "My name is Chen Kuan. I'll get straight to the point. You must leave this mine. Also, you have violated the prairie's rules. So, your people must leave. Each of you must leave behind 1 billion royal crystals. Whoever doesn't have enough royal crystals will stay here forever." This was blatant extortion. Not only did they rob the God Slayer Alliance's mine, but they also demanded a huge sum of money. Bullshit, aren't you going to rob them? This time, Sakura couldn't take it anymore. Did the Red Alliance think they were pushovers? That they could do whatever they wanted? This is the consequence of violating the prairie's rules. I can't help you. Chen Kuan was indeed a leader. He didn't get angry. Then, he raised his hand again. In fact, he made a move against the God Slayer Alliance to make an example out of them. He wanted to let those distant minds know that the Red Alliance was the only one who ruled the prairie. Rules? Huh, are there no other rules on the prairie apart from the path of slaughter? Just as Sakura and the rest were about to flare up, suddenly, Lin Ling also spoke up. This sentence was very calm, but it was like a downpour. It weakened the prairie's murderous intent. The newcomers and miners of the God Slayer Alliance had been feeling uneasy, afraid that a fierce battle would break out. However, when they heard Lin Ling's calm voice, they gradually calmed down. In fact, Lin Ling didn't want the two alliances to fight. He saw that the Red Alliance had too many people. If they really killed them, it would be a catastrophe. And he couldn't guarantee that no one from the God Slayer Alliance would die. When Chen Kun heard this, he sneered. Just as he was about to start a war, Lin Ling spoke up again. A country has its own laws, a family has its own rules, and the Great Prairie has its own set of laws. According to what you said, we are breaking the rules of the Great Prairie by forcefully opening a mine. However, there are exceptions to everything. If I remember correctly, the Great Prairie has another way to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. That is, the Great Prairie sends out 3 people from each mine. 3 battles, 2 wins, and the final winner stays. Hearing this, the Red Alliance fell silent. Chen Kun frowned. There was indeed such a rule. Could it be that the Red Alliance doesn't dare to fight? You should know that there are many minds watching. If you force a massacre, you'll be the one violating the prairie's rules. How will you convince the others in the future? Leader Chen, you'd better think about it. Lin Ling spoke again. Chen Kun was furious. Who was this kid? He was even more difficult to deal with than Sakura. Yes, there is such a rule. Come on, we're not afraid of you. However, Zhen Sanshan suddenly roared. Clearly, he had absolute confidence in the Red Alliance. After he shouted, young Master Tian shouted as well. Then, more and more people in the Red Alliance shouted as well. The prairie has its own set of rules. This is also the rule of men. Do you think the Red Alliance is afraid of you? Come on, let the 3 of you fight. If you win, you can mine the mines. Those disdainful voices rose to the sky. Obviously, they had absolute confidence in the Red Alliance. Chapter 38-27. 2 wins out of 3. On the other hand, Chen Kun's expression was getting worse and worse. He didn't want things to turn out this way. However, he couldn't back down now. If he forced his way in, others would say that the Red Alliance was bullying the weak. Even though the Red Alliance was powerful, they only had control over a small portion of these mines. Alright, the Red Alliance has nothing to fear. Chen Kun finally shouted coldly, let the 3 of you fight. As long as you win 2 rounds, you can stay. Chief Chen is indeed a straightforward person. Then, swear in the name of the prairie. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. Anger. Chen Kun didn't expect Lin Ling to be so familiar with the rules of the Great Prairie. He had him completely under his control. How would he know that after Lin Ling arrived, he kept asking Sakura and Lu Feibing, so he naturally knew about this rule. Next, the 2 alliances swore blood oaths and sent out their strongest experts to fight. There were elders who burned sandalwood incense, offering sacrifices to heaven and earth. This was to worship the ancient Origin Mountain Range's deity, using this as a form of justice. In the Guyuan Mountain Range, not only did the miners believe in these things, even many martial artists believed in them. Of course, most of them were the weak. The strong didn't believe in anything. After the 3 incense sticks burned, the war between the 2 alliances began. Each side sent out 3 people. Furthermore, this was a battle between men, so outsiders were not allowed to interfere. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. Furthermore, if they were killed during the battle, they would be killed regardless of whether they lived or died, unless they admitted defeat. Lin Ling, the Red Alliance is very powerful. We cannot lose this battle. On the city wall, Yeshua and the other leaders began to discuss with grave expressions. Who would be sent out for the 3 matches was extremely crucial. Is there anyone among you? You're all useless. You're all dead meat. Seeing that the God Slayer Alliance was nervously discussing the matter, the guardian of the 3 mountains immediately clamored proudly. However, the members of the God Slayer Alliance didn't pay any attention to him. Instead, they looked at the leaders. Don't worry, we'll definitely win these 3 matches. Lin Ling looked at Yi Shui and the others and suddenly smiled. Yi Shui and the others were stunned. The leaders of the Red Alliance were extremely powerful and came from the final world. Where did Lin Ling get his confidence from? However, Lin Ling didn't explain. Instead, he looked at Sakura with a smile. Sakura was stunned for a moment. It seemed that he wasn't too confident in himself, but he still nodded in the end. First battle, Ancient Wuji. A moment later, the God Extermination Alliance sent out Wangu Wuji. The Red Alliance sent out a master from the final world. Their cultivation bases were similar, and their talents were also similar. However, it was clear that the ancestor power of the expert from the final world was stronger, reaching as much as 60%. After 100 exchanges, Wangu Wuji finally lost. You still have one more chance. As soon as Wangu Wuji was defeated, the entire Great Plains erupted into cheers. Zhen Sanshan and young Master Tian even danced with joy. Even Chen Kun nodded his head. It seemed like he had overestimated the God Extermination Alliance. They weren't strong enough to defeat them. Lin Ling, I'm sorry, but I lost. When Wangu Wuji came back, his face was extremely ugly. It's not your fault. That expert isn't weak. He can fight with a half-step martial god. However, Lin Ling didn't mind. He smiled and took out a treasure for Wangu Wuji to heal him. God Extermination Alliance, you won't go back on your words when you lose, right? At that moment, Chen Kun said, you were the one who proposed the challenge. You should know that if you go back on your words, you'll be committing a heinous crime. Moreover, you'll be provoking the mine god and will be killed by all the miners. Don't worry. Don't worry, I'm willing to accept my loss. However, we still have one more match before we lose. Lin Ling also smiled faintly. He was incomparably calm, causing Chen Kun to frown. Even at this moment, that brat was still so confident. Chen Kun was also puzzled. That kid looks unfamiliar, but even Sakura listens to him. How strange. Boss, don't be afraid of him. We've fought with him before. He's only a middle-stage martial ancestor. Young Master Tian flattered Chen Kun with a smile. Lil, Tian, you've won my heart. Good, this information is good. I'll reward you when we get back. Chen Kun was in a good mood when he heard this. He then asked another expert from the Red Alliance to fight. He looked at the God Extermination Alliance in disdain and said, it's the second match. Who are you going to send? Are you trying to stall for time? God Extermination Alliance, send someone up. After he said that, countless people in the prairie shouted. Their voices shook the heavens and the earth. Why are you in such a hurry? Are you waiting to lose? However, Lin Ling said calmly. For some reason, the people from the Red Alliance felt suffocated because the young man was too calm. There was no fear at all. Lin Ling, we still have one match left. You're not as good as us. At this moment, Yeshua looked at Lin Ling and said. However, Lin Ling shook his head. The God Extermination Alliance had sent someone out for the first match. The second match was the Red Alliance's turn. Therefore, Lin Ling looked at the expert from the mountain fortress. This person was also a peak martial ancestor. His talent was rank 6 and he was not young. He must be a veteran expert. To be honest, the Red Alliance was full of experts. Any random expert was stronger than the God Extermination Alliance. Moreover, this was only one of the leaders of the Red Alliance. It did not include the entire Red Alliance. There are 3 matches. Each person can only fight 1 match. Therefore, I won't fight. Meng Lu, you fight. Lin Ling shook his head and looked at Meng Lu. Me? Meng Lu was shocked. This was a crucial match. Logically speaking, Lin Ling should be the one to fight because Lin Ling was stronger than him. Taking a step back, even if Lin Ling didn't fight, it would still be Sakura. Go. Lin Ling said confidently, that guy is weaker than you. If you lose, you can go back to the Tomb Guardian clan. You'll only be a disgrace if you come back. Fuck, Lin Ling, don't look down on me. Just wait, I'll win. Meng Lu shouted angrily and jumped down. Seeing Meng Lu fight, Wangu Wuji said sadly, Lin Ling, I've lost face for you. This has nothing to do with you. The main thing is that in the first battle, they roughly guessed your strength, so they sent their strongest martial artist to fight. That old man is even stronger than Meng Lu by a bit. And in the second battle, they sent out their first person. In addition, the old man from before can no longer fight, so Meng Lu can win. Lin Ling comforted Wangu Wuji. Wangu Wuji nodded heavily. To be honest, Meng Lu had won the first match, but he had not. He could not bring himself to lose face. However, this thought no longer existed. Defeat him. Defeat him. Yen Feng, come on, come on. Come on. Chapter 38-28. The Battle of Leaders. Looking at the God Slayer Alliance, although they were also cheering, they could not compare to the other side in terms of numbers. Haha. Haha. When Chen Kun saw this scene, he was undoubtedly very happy. Hee, boss, after they lose, each person will have to pay 1 billion royal crystals and the mine will be kept. The Red Alliance will make a fortune. Zhen Sanshan immediately began to flatter Chen Kun. Chen Kun was even more delighted. Don't worry, you will all be rewarded when we return. Haha. Boss is mighty. Haha. Zhen Sanshan held to the sky and laughed at young Master Tian. I think the second battle will end in half an hour. The God Slayer Alliance will be defeated within 100 moves. Haha. Not just half an hour. I think it won't even take 50 moves. If I lose, I will drink horse piss on the spot, and I will drink 3 horses. Haha. Young Master Tian howled to the sky, but before he could finish his words, rumble. In front of the stronghold, there was a rumble. Then, a figure stood quietly on the ground, motionless. Upon closer inspection, he was actually dead. His soul had been destroyed. The God Slayer Alliance has won the second battle. On the other side, Meng Lu laughed excitedly. The Red Alliance members were so angry that their faces darkened. Everything was as Lin Ling had said. The second person was definitely not Meng Lu's match. What? Lost? Zhen Sanshan and young Master Tian were both dumbfounded. Young Master Tian almost slapped himself. He had said that he would drink horse piss if he lost. He hoped that no one had heard him. What kind of despicable method did he use? Poison? Or did someone secretly help him? Chen Kun was furious. He jumped up from the Mad Bull and unleashed his 7th grade talent. Then, he grabbed at Meng Lu with his big hand. Obviously, things had gone beyond his imagination. He was very unhappy. If you attack, you will be violating the rules. That means the Red Alliance has lost. However, on the city wall, Lin Ling, with his hands behind his back, said slowly, "Sigh, the Red Alliance can't afford to lose?" This sentence immediately intimidated Chen Kun so much that he no longer dared to attack. He forcefully landed on the ground, his face ashen. As for the people of the prairie, they were no longer as arrogant as before. They were like ducks that had been grabbed by the neck. This weak God-Slayer alliance had actually won a match. This obviously made them feel very humiliated. Let your people fight the third battle. Chen Kun suppressed his anger and bellowed. The third battle was undoubtedly the most crucial battle. Not only the God-Slayer alliance, but even the Red Alliance had quieted down. If they lost, it would be a great humiliation. Lin Ling, it's your turn now. On the city walls, everyone was looking at Lin Ling. Lin Ling was slightly stronger than Dream Flow, so it was very suitable for him to lead the final battle. However, Lin Ling still shook his head as he looked at Sakura. Big brother, this battle, I'll leave it to you. Ah. Sakura opened his mouth wide. Dream Flow and the others were the same. They were even a little dumbfounded. This was because the final battle was no joke. If they lost, they would suffer a great loss. Furthermore, they could not go back on their word because this was a battle that they had sworn to fight on the prairie. Therefore, in such a crucial battle, even the final battle, Lin Ling was still not going to fight? I believe you can do it. Although you might still be a little confused about yourself, you have to know that you are no longer the same person as before. However, Lin Ling continued to smile at Sakura. Sakura took a deep breath and finally nodded his head heavily. I'll fight this battle. He leaped down and attracted countless gazes. Sakura, peak martial ancestor, a grade 6 ultimate desolate body. He is also the leader of the mountain stronghold. He is finally going to fight. This is a battle of life and death. If he loses, the God-Slayer alliance will be in trouble. Far away in the prairie, more and more people from the mineral veins gathered to watch this earth-shattering battle. Since the leader is going to fight, I won't hold back in this battle. When it was time for the Red Alliance to fight, a sinister voice finally sounded. Chen Kun was going to fight. When his voice drifted out, the prairie fell silent. Then, loud cheers rang out. Chen Kun, one of the 18 leaders of the Red Alliance. To be able to become a leader, his strength was unquestionable. No one had expected him to be the strongest in the third battle. The God-Slayer alliance has lost. Seeing this, the people from the mineral veins sighed. As for the people from the God-Slayer alliance, their faces were ashen. This was because Sakura had fought with Chen Kun before. However, he had been defeated by Chen Kun. Otherwise, with Sakura's character, he would not have allowed the Red Alliance to defecate on him. Therefore, they knew that they had lost this battle. Lin Ling. Yi Shua and the rest looked at Lin Ling. They wanted to say something, but in the end, they only sighed. In front of the stronghold, Chen Kun drifted down. He tilted his head and looked at Sakura calmly. Speaking of which, I think I've fought with you before. However, I'm not too sure. After all, I've defeated too many people in my life. Therefore, I hope it's just my imagination. Boss, you've indeed defeated Sakura. You even trampled him under your feet. Zhen Sanshan suddenly let out a loud roar, and then laughed out loud. Seeing this, the people from the Red Alliance also laughed. Their laughter echoed in the prairie. Cut the crap. Let's fight. However, Sakura was not affected at all. A long halberd appeared in his hand and he pointed it at Chen Kun. I'll kill you in 3 moves. Chen Kun did not waste any time and immediately attacked. The strength of the peak martial ancestor realm exploded. It was this strength that had beaten Sakura to the ground. Now, history was repeating itself. 3 moves. Meng Lu and the rest's faces dimmed. It was as if they were witnessing history repeating itself. Yi Shua ordered her men to pack up and prepare to pay. Don't worry. Big brother will win. However, Lin Ling's eyes were like torches as he spoke calmly. His words caused Meng Lu and the rest to narrow their eyes. Lin Ling was that confident? They could not help but look down at the stronghold. Originally, they did not want to see Sakura's miserable state, so they were looking at Lin Ling. However, they could only endure the pain and look. Bang! 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 However, the result was that Sakra's momentum was heavy and his attacks were ferocious. He forced Chen Kun to retreat. Moreover, a terrifying aura burst out as if it was an evil spirit from the underworld. Black bones, black to the point of blinding. His fist and halberd carried a terrifying aura of destruction. 7th grade ultimate desolate body. Chen Kun was no longer as confident as before. He spat out blood as he retreated. His subordinates widened their eyes. Chen Kun, it's time to settle our grudges. Sakra shouted coldly. He was elated. That was because he had come out of seclusion. More importantly, Lin Ling had greatly increased his strength. Chapter 38-29. The God Slayer Alliance won. Enough. But at this time, Chen Kun finally erupted with terrifying boundary essence. Half-step to martial god realm. In the past, the Sakra was not worthy enough for him to unleash his full strength. That was why the God Slayer Alliance thought that Chen Kun was just a half-step martial god. Leader is mighty, leader is mighty. In the blink of an eye, the previously lifeless Red Alliance had once again overturned the grassland and roared into the sky. Rumble. Behind Chen Kun, a mad bull appeared. It was as big as a mine, causing Chen Kun's aura to become wild and unruly. Meng Lu and the others turned pale when they saw Chen Kun's aura. Chen Kun is a half-step martial god? Damn it. They were certain that no one in the God Slayer Alliance was a match for Chen Kun. The show is just about to begin. Big brother, you've protected them for so many years. Now, it's time for you to show them what a leader is. However, among the crowd, not only was Lin Ling not worried, he instead spoke word by word. Because, he had already seen through Sakra's strength, and even saw through Chen Kun's strength. To be honest, Chen Kun was like an ant to him. That was why he didn't have the qualifications to let Lin Ling fight. Are you the only one who has reached the half-step martial god realm? Sure enough, Indra also erupted with a terrifying aura, shaking the entire mine. Behind him, a gigantic black-boned evil spirit appeared, and on those bones, there was a line of golden flames. This was the result of the burning of the human king's flame. It was as if he had been reborn. Boom! With a single step, he battled the heavens and the earth. He was invincible. What? Are you also a half-step martial god? Chen Kun was stunned. Then, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, at this moment, an ancient giant arrived. Rolling fists mixed with the storm of the underworld suppressed him. Now that things had come to this, Chen Kun no longer held back. He also erupted with his boundary essence, talent, and even ancestral power to resist Sakra's fist. Rumble. In just an instant, the two of them fought until the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. The entire prairie was dead silent. No one had expected that the leader of the God Slayer Alliance's mountain stronghold would be so powerful. Pop! Pop! In the next moment, Chen Kun was blasted away and smashed into the ground, spitting out blood. The blazing bull behind him also dimmed a lot. After he got up, he roared in disbelief, "Why is it like this? You and I have the same talent, the same cultivation realm, and my ancestral power has reached 70%. Why am I not your match? Too much nonsense." However, Sakra didn't care about these at all and poured out his storm-like attacks. Only he knew the reason. It was precisely the flame of the human king. Having experienced the tempering of the human king's flames, the hardness of the evil ghost's bones had long exceeded one's imagination. It was not an ordinary 7th grade ultimate desolate body. And he was already this strong, so this made him have a feeling that his second brother, Lin Ling, was probably even stronger than him. The thought of defeating a half-step martial god when he was only a middle-stage martial ancestor was terrifying. Bang! The battle lasted for half an hour, and in the end, everyone could only see with their mouths wide open that Sakura was stepping on Chinkuan's back and leader Chinkuan was in a sorry state like a dog. Leader, we've lost. Yes, we've lost. I even suspect that my eyes are playing tricks on me. However, why has leader Chinkuan been beaten into a dog? In the silence, only Jin Sanshan and the rest's incredulous voices could be heard. As for the Red Alliance, their faces were gloomy and their morale had plummeted. Although they had the advantage in numbers, the God Slayer Alliance had used the Prairie's rules to defeat them. Therefore, what else could they say? If they didn't admit their loss and planned to use their numbers to defeat the God Slayer Alliance, it wasn't impossible. However, this would tarnish their reputation. In the future, the other minds wouldn't trust them. I admit defeat. At this moment, Chen Kuan's voice was finally heard and it was filled with humiliation. Hearing this, the Red Alliance's elites immediately let out a long sigh. The truth had finally come to light. Now, they had no choice but to accept their loss. Haha! Sakura roared towards the sky like a giant. All the grievances he had suffered in guarding the mines for the past few years were all vented out. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to the arrogant and unruly Sakura of the past. Seeing this, Lin Ling also laughed for his elder brother. This was his real elder brother. Red Alliance, scram! Sakura roared and turned to leave. However, following his footsteps, the ground was filled with blood. This was because he wasn't completely unscathed. In fact, he was seriously injured. However, all this didn't matter because he had won. He won. Well done, Red Alliance. They've started this. In the future, if we don't accept the Red Alliance, we can also use the Prairie's rules against them. Seeing Sakura's great victory, the leaders of the mines in the distance were all excited. Although they seemed to obey the Red Alliance, it was only on the surface. After all, no one wanted their hard-earned money to be swallowed by the Red Alliance. Go to hell. However, at this moment, Chen Kuan suddenly exploded. He had violated the rules of the battle. In his hands, a sharp horn suddenly appeared. There was a flame burning on the tip of the bull horn, making it look extremely extraordinary. Then, he charged towards Sakura at the speed of 800 kilometers. If an ordinary half-step to martial god was hit by his attack, he would die on the spot. As soon as he moved, the people of the God Slayer Alliance saw it. Meng Lu and the others immediately shouted, "Old Emperor, be careful." As soon as this voice fell, Sakura also noticed the change behind him. There seemed to be a world behind him, a kind of berserk world. He immediately reacted, but he was seriously injured. Moreover, his hasty resistance was of no use at all. However, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. A sword gently slashed out. Rumble. This sword seemed ordinary, but it was mixed with a terrifying power. It actually blocked Chen Kuan's horns, forming a terrifying storm that swept out in all directions. Everyone looked at the person who had suddenly appeared. Then, all of them gasped. That was because it was Lin Ling. It's you. Even Chen Kuan could not believe it. He had thought that Lin Ling was a strategist who was in charge of strategizing for the God Slayer Alliance. He had not expected this young man to be so powerful. His desperate attack was able to kill a half-martial god realm cultivator. Lin Ling's sword seemed to have blocked the two horns. At this moment, he placed his other hand behind his back and said with a faint smile, "The Red Alliance has lost. According to the rules, you still attacked. This is against the Prairie's rules. You should know that my brother could have killed you before, but he did not want to violate the Prairie's rules. That's why he spared your life." Hearing this, Chen Kuan's eyes narrowed. Previously, he had lost so much that he couldn't wait to kill Di Tian. However, he had forgotten that this occasion was obviously not suitable because not only was the Red Alliance watching this battle, there were also countless people from the mines watching. Chapter 38:30. Lone Eagle. There's no need to explain. Any explanation is just a cover-up. Lin Ling was still smiling, but his eyes had turned icy cold. He knew that the fatal attack from before had contained 70% of his ancestral power. If he hadn't been there, no one in the God-slaying alliance would have been able to block it. This meant that his big brother would have died without a doubt. Daring to ambush the people who tried to assassinate his elder brother, this was Lin Ling's reverse scale. Are you going to be torn apart by 5 horses, have your head blown up by a sword, or be crushed by my foot? I'll give you a chance to choose. Yes. Lin Ling's voice drifted out like the grim reaper of the prairie. It sent chills down everyone's spine. Chen Kuan raised his head and looked at Lin Ling. He could vaguely sense that Lin Ling wasn't weak. In addition, he was seriously injured. Therefore, he couldn't rely on himself. He needed someone else's help. Slap. At this moment, Lin Ling gently retracted his sword and patted Chen Kuan's cheek. Have you made your choice? Do you know who you're attacking? Chen Kuan's eyes turned cold. Hearing this, Lin Ling finally shook his head and retracted his sword. Next, he swung his palm. I know who I'm attacking. If I'm not mistaken, it should be one of the leaders of the Red Alliance. Slap. This slap carried a terrifying force and sent Chen Kuan flying as if he was swept away by a gust of wind. You're courting death. Chen Kuan quickly stood up, but his face was in a sorry state. His nose was broken and half his face was swollen. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and some of his teeth were even spat out. This made everyone's pupils tremble. This was one of the leaders of the Red Alliance? Of course, as he roared furiously, he was also surprised in his heart because he was actually unable to raise the slightest strength to resist the slap from before. Men, kill everyone from the God Slayer Alliance. Kill them all. Then, Chen Kuan roared hysterically. However, Lin Ling was already in front of him. He raised his arm and slapped down from above. Rumble. Chen Kuan was smashed to the ground like a meteor falling from the sky. Seeing that momentum, everyone's faces turned pale. They could feel how terrifying the power was. We defeated you according to the rules of the Great Prairie. Now that you've lost, you want to go back on your words. Do you think you can convince others? If the prairie really allows you to do whatever you want, I think you won't be able to continue mining. You will definitely be punished by God. Lin Ling said faintly. His voice was calm, but it made the restless people gradually calm down. They looked at each other, but in the end, they didn't dare to make a move. After all, the God Slayer Alliance had defeated the Red Alliance fair and square. They had also sworn an oath in the name of the Great Prairie. If the Red Alliance went back on their word, the Great Prairie would no longer tolerate them. If they wanted to continue mining, there would be a lot of twists and turns. This was especially true for the miners. They believed in heresy and attached great importance to these legends. Go. Kill. What are you standing there for? When Zhensan Shan saw that his leader was being humiliated, he immediately shouted angrily. Guard the 3 mountains. This is the rule of the entire prairie. However, an old man frowned and said. Yes, the Great Prairie will no longer tolerate those who break the rules. The others nodded. Although they were from the same alliance, there were too many people and they weren't united. Now that it concerned the rules of the Great Prairie, they didn't dare to act recklessly. You bunch of trash. You usually flatter people when you have nothing to do, but when there's a problem, you're all acting like cowards. Seeing that no one dared to move, Chen Kuan was so angry that his teeth fell out. Hearing this, the people of the Red Alliance hesitated. They wanted to attack a few times, but in the end, they didn't dare to. In the distance, the people from the various mines were also discussing. Their words were all about the Great Prairie's rules, which made the people of the Red Alliance even more fearful. Kid, you're quite strong, but the Red Alliance isn't that simple. I've already notified my second uncle. He's much stronger than you. No matter what the Great Prairie's rules are, in front of absolute power, everything is useless. On the ground, Chen Kun suddenly said sinisterly. Since his subordinates weren't reliable, then it was up to his second uncle. His second uncle was also one of the 18 leaders of the Red Alliance. His position and status were even higher than his. It was because of his second uncle's support that he was able to stand firm in the Red Alliance. Hearing this, the faces of the people of the Red Alliance changed greatly. Even the eyes of the people from the various mines trembled. Chen Kuan's second uncle was quite famous in the Great Prairie. His name was Heavenly Lone Eagle. He was greedy and cruel. Those who opposed him had already become the yellow soil of the Great Prairie. It was said that he came from the final world. Because he killed the son of a duke, he hid in the Guyuan Mountains. He hid there for 1,000 years until he finally stood firm in the Great Prairie. You're the leader of the Red Alliance? However, Lin Ling shook his head. There was a trace of contempt in his eyes. I thought you were a hero, but it turns out that you're just a lowly hooligan. You can't win, so you ask your seniors to help you. You're really a disgrace to the Red Alliance. Your subordinates are much more courageous than you. You, nonsense. Lin Ling's words were like a sword that humiliated Chen Kuan's heart. His prestige was greatly reduced. Bang! However, Lin Ling stepped on his face and stomped him back to the ground. He even rubbed his face fiercely. You stray dog, you don't need to talk nonsense. I'm doing things according to the rules of the Great Prairie. So, even if the leader of the Red Alliance came, I wouldn't be afraid. Hearing Lin Ling's words and being stepped on by Lin Ling, Chen Kuan felt even more humiliated. As one of the leaders of the Red Alliance, his face was stepped on in front of so many people. How could he face others in the future? This was a great humiliation. Looking at the people of the Red Alliance, they were all clenching their fists. They were angry at Lin Ling's arrogance. However, they still didn't dare to act rashly. He's dead. That's right. If Heavenly Lone Eagle comes, the leader of the God Slayer Alliance won't be able to fight against him. Although Sakra is also a half-step to martial god, Heavenly Lone Eagle is said to be invincible among half-step to martial gods. Some people couldn't help but speak with resentment. This was a battle between the leaders of the two alliances. Naturally, they were not qualified to participate. Moreover, this matter had escalated into a battle between the Red Alliance and the God Slayer Alliance. The 18 leaders of the Red Alliance wouldn't let this matter rest. Heavenly Lone Eagle? Meng Lu and the others frowned. They didn't expect that the despicable Chen Kuan would refuse to admit his loss, causing this matter to escalate. Although they hadn't seen Heavenly Lone Eagle before, they could roughly guess his strength. Sakra was the most powerful one, but he was also severely injured. If that expert came, how could the God Slayer Alliance stop him? Isn't there still Lin Ling? Yi Shuai suddenly said as she looked at the people in the stronghold. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.